Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is Eric, Dennis, and Robert. It was very hard for me not to say Nathaniel. Because usually it's not Robert and it's Nathaniel. So this time I have to change it up. But we talked about that the last show that I have to change it up. So
Just trying to keep you on your toes.
Well, everybody's doing a good job of that and I appreciate it.
Trying to mix it up.
You know, as if I don't have enough to keep me on my toes as it is. So, but you know, it's okay. It's all good. We're all fine here. Situation normal.
We're all fine.
Yeah. How are you? But yeah, yeah, that's my favorite thing when we're at work or something and I drop something. Everything okay over there? Yeah, everything's fine. Situation normal. How are you?
I gotta start doing that more. That's pretty
yeah. You know, anywhere I can squeeze in either a Star Wars reference or a Simpsons reference, I'm good. And most everything I can wedge a Simpson reference in because there's so many of them that you know it's very easy to wedge a Simpsons reference in. So
yeah, pretty funny. We have a big like Teams chat with stuff. Most people post, gifts doing things that or like Mondays. And here I am, just Simpsons all the time, or the IT crowd.
Yeah.
It's for everything.
I mean, there's Simpsons just keeps on giving. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's given
so much.
It's given us so much, and it just keeps giving.
I know.
But no, you can catch our Simpsons podcast next week. This week we're going to talk about video games. Well, then we'll start off like we always do with what we've been playing. I don't know if you want me to go first. I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll talk about the Xbox.
Yeah, I think because I got a lot of questions to ask.
I figured you would. So
yeah,
I figured you would. So Dennis, why don't you go ahead and start and tell us what you've been playing, what's been going on? Because I know you've been on vacation. So
yeah. So basically, since it's officially out now, I finally, because I've been holding this, man. I've been holding this back for so long, and it's officially out now. I've been playing a lot of Immortals, Phoenix Rising, and finally happy that it's out into the world. A little bit of drama surrounding it. I know you and I talked a little bit about it.
Everybody just saying this is Breath of the Wild. It's Breath of the Wild. This is all this is Breath of the Wild.
I think artistically, it's hard not to get that out of your head, and I'm not saying they're wrong because I mean, obviously, when I'm playing it, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone like, oh, I remember that Breath of the Wild. I remember that Breath of the Wild. I remember that Breath of the Wild.
Moving stuff around, climbing, things like that. That's very Breath of the Wild to me. It looks like it reminds me of Skylanders. The art style of it kind of reminds me of Skylanders a little bit.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that a little bit.
Yeah, very early Skylanders.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's I mean, and again, it's hard to get that out of your head, when you're kind of talking about it, and when you're playing it and stuff like that. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, climbing, I'm like, oh, that even some of the animations look absolutely identical, because you can do when you're climbing, it looks just like when Link climbs. Thankfully, I'm happy to announce, and this is why I'm surprised, like, this just didn't get like 9.5s out of 10s. No rain when you're climbing. Yep. So you can safely climb up to the top without having to constantly like slide off and like waste stamina and try to eat food on the way up.
Is the climbing very similar in that you can just basically climb almost any wall?
Yep, if you have the stamina for it, yeah, absolutely. So like, it doesn't matter if it's like a side of a building or like just it could be a random rock. Even if it doesn't look climbable, if it's try to approach it, chances are you can climb it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to get your thoughts off of it, but it's one of those things that at the end of the day, it does kind of have its own identity. And this is by the team that made Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? So if anything, it's more like that. It's more like it has the same design philosophy as Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but you can see that the influence from Breath of the Wild is there. Now, I spoke with the, I believe it's the executive producer last week. I want to say his name is Julian. Unfortunately, I don't remember his last name, but he was great to talk to him about it. And he said that they looked at a lot of games, about for inspiration. I mean, obviously, they've had a team now that coming off of the success of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which a lot of people considered one of the best Assassin's Creeds since, depending on how you feel about Black Flag, because I know a lot of people love Black Flag, but even before that, Ezio, and just kind of going back to that sort of Mediterranean theme in that landscape, um, so you have that sort of design team, but of course they're looking at other games and what makes them successful, right? What made Breath of the Wild so good? I mean, it was open world. I mean, it's not the first open world game, God knows, it's but Breath of the Wild is so many things in terms of interaction with the world and what you could do, right? All of it, if you saw like things you wouldn't even think of, right? If you're holding a flame sword, all of a sudden you do a crazy spin attack, all of a sudden the grass catches on fire. If you're anything that's flammable, all of a sudden catches fire.
And when
You know,
I only got to play it like maybe 20 minutes last night because I was doing all kinds of other stuff, trying out this and that
Yeah.
and that and this. And the minute that I attacked something and I cut the grass, I went, oh,
Yep.
where's my rupee? Where's my... oh, wait, okay, never mind.
Right. Well, yeah, and like I said, like those animations and the feeling
Yeah.
and that sort of, you can see that the inspiration was there, but it's not. But I think if anything, people should look at Genshin Impact, and because that's more of a clone to me than Immortals Phoenix Rising is, to be honest. And especially in terms of art style, at least Immortals Phoenix Rising tried to go for something a little more stylized. Like if you played on next gen systems, which you said you played 20 minutes of it on the Series X, I would imagine, right? So yeah, that game's gorgeous. Like that game is absolutely stunning, and like it has that sort of stylized sort of approach. I mean, like it has elements of Breath of the Wild to it, but it's only like bits and pieces. I think if you take a step back and look at everything, sure, you're like, oh, what is this Breath of the Wild? But then like when you start playing it, especially when you look at like the cut scenes, no one's faces looks like super anime. It's not super cell shaded or anything like that. You know what I mean? Some of the grass kind of gives off. I think the grass is probably the most Breath of the Wild part, honestly, because the grass is it really kind of has that sort of cell shaded look. But the environments are gorgeous. They're very different. Also, I mean, it's not like it looks like Hyrule. It's very Greek. And again, it goes back to, I think it's more like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, I think, but aesthetically and at first glance, then and you can see the inspirations when you're climbing and
the way to move the puzzles around and
the puzzles, especially
the puzzle stuff. That's very Breath of the Wild, and
very much so.
And a lot of reviewers. Well, I mean, you were talking about it over text message the other day because I was laying in a hotel room watching review videos when they came out, and that's what everybody compared it to: Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild.
I rarely heard Assassin's Creed Odyssey, honestly. I watched a few too, like one of the ones that you sent me, and then like I watched a few videos, and then I skimmed through a few reviews as well. And
that one that I sent you was a stinker. I mean, that thing, I was like, that review gave it so bad I had to share it. This is so bad you got to watch it. I mean, it was just like.
Well, the interesting thing too, and not to call anybody out, but I'm gonna call somebody out. IGN, they like for some reason, like apparently the reviewer also reviewed Age of Calamity and gave that a 9 out of 10. Now, not to say that's not worthy of it, because I've been playing that too, and we'll get to that. But it's one of those things, and so somebody in the comment section made a very good point. I think I kind of echoed this to you, John, where I was like, if you had literally taken away the word Immortals Phoenix Rising, it would have read just like a Breath of the Wild review. Then yet for some reason they gave it a 7 out of 10. Now, not to say 7 out of 10 is bad. I think we put too much emphasis on, like, it's like if anything's below an 8, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? The 7's not bad. 7 is still, I if anything, I start to worry if it's anything below a 6. And even then a 6 is just like, well, what makes it a 6? Like you can still.
Is also, I always consider like a 6 to be like, if it's your sort of genre of game.
Because I feel like that's what, like, I'm no stranger to saying this, but it's like, like Mirror's Edge. I love Mirror's Edge, both of them. I know a lot of people trash on those games for some reason, and I'm sure they have their reasons. And it's all opinions at the end of the day. But those games, if I'm not mistaken, got 6.5.
Oh,
at least the first
well,
one,
and I think the second one got even lower than that. I want to say
it
was like
depending on.
5 or something. I
Yeah,
can look it
depending on
up.
the outlet, which is weird because I thought the second one was actually overall better. I mean, I play the first one more because the first one just kind of has that nostalgia feel for me, and I think just overall just kind of feels better. But but overall, I think I do love the second one more, which is so it's weird that it kind of got received. Um, that way. But again, using that as an example, that's how I feel about Mirror's Edge. So I mean, just like Eric said, right, where it's just like, I think a 6 isn't bad because depending on who you are and if the game is meant for you, I mean, it could easily be an 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So and it's always weird reviewing games, and I mean, we review games, and we were fortunate enough to get early access and into a lot of these games that these devs work so hard on. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't look at who reviewed it, they immediately look at the outlet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
IGN as a whole supposedly gave Immortals Phoenix Rising a 7 out of 10,
Yeah,
right?
they
But
did. I
who's to
watched
say,
their video.
right? So like, who's to say the person in the cubicle right next to them, assuming everyone was still working at, or, if things were normal, who's to say if that person wasn't tasked to do the review, what if they had given it
Maybe they liked it better.
exactly right? So
Right.
it's always weird, but because you represent IGN as a whole at that point, so
Right.
it's weird, and I think, but that's why, I think, really need to start putting a big emphasis on, like, look, reviews
Just what
are
we think. I mean,
exactly,
it's subjective. Like, just because we
completely
say
subjective.
one thing,
Yeah.
try it out, see if you like it, especially if you like the publisher, the genre game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's why I say all the time, right? Where it's just like, if you know, okay, well, again, going back to IGN, right, where they offer some, they're always giving Call of Duties like 9.5 out of 10s, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But if I worked at IGN and you tasked me to do Call of Duty, I can promise you right now, I would be a lot more critical, just because of how I feel about those games.
Yeah.
And
I have some things to say about that.
yeah, oh yeah, it'd be more of a thesis than a review,
Mhm.
and then, but then all of it, IGN would be like, oh, they gave the game, last year a 9 out of 10. Well, how come this year it's a 5 out of 10? Like, well, look at the reviewer.
Right. Yeah.
So, but also, like, you also got to clarify with people. But I think that's why you should make sure that you give games to the people who are probably the most adequate, or the most sorry, maybe not adequate, but like the most proficient in whatever the genre is. Like,
Mhm.
don't ever. I've said this many times, but don't ever give me a sports game to review. I'm the last person you should give a sports game to review.
Right.
I wouldn't know where to start, and even if I did, it would be super biased at that point. And every time I try to write, and I think that goes for all of us, I think we try to be unbiased. Like you never want to review something that you're not enthusiastic about. That doesn't make sense. So,
Right.
so it's so I'm not enthusiastic about it's just sports in general. So like I'm not the guy to review Madden, Madden 28. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
So but unless it's like more like fantasy stuff where it's like if there's a new Mario Golf, I'm your guy. I love Mario Golf. Uh, but uh, but yeah, but the more like the ones that take more of like a simulation approach, like your kind of annualized franchises, those aren't for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like all the Nintendo sports stuff, that's for me. Even stuff, but like I said, it's just anything that's more arcadey too, like Sports Party, right, by Ubisoft. Like, I mean, I'd probably have fun with that too, because that's more of like a bunch of mini games and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But the ones that are like pure simulation, like Pro Evolution Soccer, or of course, FIFA, and games of that sort. I'm not tasked for that, and like, even if I got approached for that, I'd be like, look, I'm not, you know I'm not, because I think every game should have its uh have its time to be properly analyzed and stuff
Right.
like that. So again, people worked hard on this game, even if it's annualized. I mean, of course, I'm the type, I like to make fun of those types of games, but of course, I mean, it's not to say that people aren't, crunching, and because God
Yeah.
knows there's a whole big fiasco with that in the industry. But it's not easy. It's not easy making games, so you want to make sure that when it does go out into the world and people can, appreciate it and enjoy it, that, there's someone out there, especially if it's for review, because reviews, you're kind of helping promote the game a little bit more
Mhm.
too, right? So, because I mean, I can't tell you how many times. I mean, even if I wasn't looking for a particular review, maybe I'm just surfing a website like the Gamers Lounge or IGN, GameSpot, whatever. Where I'm over there and like all of a sudden there's a new review for a game that came up. And I'm just like, oh, what game is that? It looks interesting, because you look at a few photos, you see a trailer, whatever, and then you start reading the review, and then you can kind of dictate from there whether you like it or not, and then maybe you do some more research on your own,
Right.
assuming you're not already sold or not sold from the review, depending on how it was written. So, um, it does help with publicity.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, and that was like a lot of those. I must have watched. I can't tell you how many video reviews. At least 10 for this game, because it was just like there's nothing on TV. There was no new videos on the guys I follow on YouTube, so it was just like I just went down a rabbit hole with it. And the ones that gave it like a 7 or stuff, I'd always go back and look at some of the comments and like, well, he said it wasn't, it was a 7, so I'll probably wait till it's $20 in the bin. It's like everybody's like, oh yeah, it's that 7's not that good. It's not good enough for me to pay $40 or $50 to $60 for.
Right.
It's like, well, I don't know. I didn't pay that much for it, but
I think it's just people are focusing too much on the comparisons and versus like how is it as a game by itself.
Right?
Like if you never played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if you never played Breath of the Wild, neither of those games.
I mean, those controls on Immortal Phoenix Rising are Assassin's Creed controls. I mean, it's
the moment
straight up.
The right trigger to hit the. I was like, oh, okay, it's just
Assassin's
Creed.
They're copying. They're taking influence from something that's successful and popular. More power to them. It works out for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And again, right? Like, what about those people that never played either of those games? Then they're going into this with no sort of influence on what to think, because this to them is going to be an all new experience. And then from here, maybe they can grow and expand into Breath of the Wild or into Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If they're just like, oh, I want more stuff like this. This is fantastic. Because that could be their entryway. And Immortals is very accessible as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think great for all ages. And they put a big emphasis on humor too, which Assassin's Creed Odyssey, while it was funny in some sections, wasn't necessarily a funny game. Same thing with Breath of the Wild. But this one definitely has a big emphasis on humor.
There's a lot of dad jokes in this.
There's a lot.
Just in the first, like I said, I've only played 15, 20 minutes, maybe half hour of it, and it's like, the dad jokes are already abounding. It's like
everywhere. But honestly, like, I'm for it though, because it kind of gives it that sort of wholesome feeling, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. But then when it does take itself seriously, like for the more dramatic moments, it looks awesome. The cutscenes are fantastic. It's really well animated. The characters are all super likable. Phoenix, especially, I love her. I think she's great. She's a fantastic character.
And if you don't want it to be a girl, you can make it a guy. I mean,
right.
But absolutely. Did you make your girl with a beard? Because you could do that. I had to see if I could make her with a beard.
I did not give her.
It still gave me the options for beards, so I made it. I made a girl, and then I said, "Oh, let me see if I can put a beard on her." Well, I'll be dipped. I can. Okay.
You can do anything and everything you want. Even the skin tones, like, they get super crazy. You can do green, purple, and like it's wild. It's funny. But yeah, you can do anything and everything. It's awesome, and even better is that you don't have to worry about. Is this how my character is going to look the entire time? Because once you go to a place called the Hall of Gods, that's basically going to be your hub for the entire Immortals Phoenix Rise. You can go there and they have like a little like beauty chair that you can like sit in, and like like Hermes is there, like Athena's there, and like
you're gonna make it look good.
Aphrodite and stuff like that. Everybody's all the Greek gods and goddesses are there. So, but yeah, they're just like, all right, let's see what we can do with you. And even the animation when you do, it's all, there's so many cute little things. Like when you make a potion, it's like one of my favorite things, because she like she rubs her hands together. She's and like it's awesome. And then she's just kind of like all excited for like the potion you're gonna make and whatnot. And it's and even when, I'm sure you've opened a few chests, even though you're only like 20 minutes in, I think there's like 1 or 2 chests.
Oh yeah.
So like even there's like a bunch of different animations for that. She'll like kind of like do like a quick little drum beat on the thing before opening it. She'll kind of like do like an elbow drop on it, and like and then like just all these cute little just these cute little things that I appreciate that they really kind of excelled in the animation department with. And that's the thing that constantly gets me is like, oh man, the animation for this is just so good, and everything's just so inviting and so accessible and so colorful and beautiful. And again, the game is it's a wholesome, great game.
How's it running on the Switch?
So yeah, so a couple of differences. Honestly, like it perfectly playable,
Mm-hmm.
runs instead of 60 frames, it is 30 frames. But I mean, as someone who played the next gen PC build for the last 2 months, and now having played it on the Switch, uh, it's weird because when you take half the frames away, it can be kind of jarring. But for a game like Immortals, honestly, it's like you go at your own pace. It's not something you need super fast reactionary skills for, and then I mean, yeah, you can like parry and like block and whatnot and dodge, and then if you do that, just like Breath of the Wild, things go into slow motion really quick, and but by no means did I ever go like, oh man, like this is miserable. It's not at all. My biggest complaint really with it is draw distance. That's the thing. The draw distance, if anything, and some of the lighting and the shading is clearly, if not absent, just clearly like degraded a little bit. But overall, like the artistic art style is still there, the vision is still there, and the core of the game is still there. It's perfectly playable even at 30 frames. And again, it's not, and it's stable. It's not like it all of a sudden like chugs down to like 15, 10.
Right.
It's a stable 30. And for a game that's as big of a world and as deep of a world as this is, it's really, really impressive, and I really appreciate the time and the effort that they put into this. And even better, which is why I want to buy more copies of it on because I want to get it on PC as well, is that much like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it
cross save.
That's right. That's right. So you have, because now with everything Ubisoft's moving forward, I think they announced this a while back where they're just like, look, we just connect to our Ubisoft services and you'll get your gameplay anywhere. It don't matter what platform you're on, which is awesome because. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, is it gonna be one of those things where you'll be able to play it like in Xbox Cloud gaming phone potentially?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Because like.
Yeah, I mean, if it ever comes to Game Pass, sure, but I mean, you can stream it from your system.
I just think it'd be really, I'm all about the cross save, just because hey, you can go.
Yeah. Well, it just makes things easier, because a lot of times, especially with
in your living room on your Xbox.
Well, and I'm like that especially with Ubisoft games, because I prefer to play them on the Xbox, but then my buddies play them at PS4, and if it gets cheap enough, I'll buy it. And then and then we can go bounce back and forth.
To start over, which
right.
I have run into a few times where it's like, hey, we bought this game on PC. I'm like, I'm already like level 30. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I feel. I want them to go back to their games prior to them kind of doing this and see, hopefully, if they can do some compatibility, because for example, I own Division 2 on Xbox and PC. I own Steep on Xbox and PC. I own
a couple.
Breakpoint. I know, we both got that, John. We both got Ghost Recon. I own that on Xbox and PC, and
I own it on Xbox and PS4. I don't know.
Right. It's insane. So it's just like I own multiple copies of their games, and I'm sure for the people who play like when they're more online oriented stuff with like stuff to carry over, much like Rainbow Six. I'm sure there's people who stuff like that where it's like, even I mean, Steep's a great example too. Like Steep is like mostly an online oriented game, but it's like, man, like I don't want to like just go back and do all those challenges. Like I worked hard on my Steep, like I don't want to have to do that all over again. So but thankfully, it's really, your choice of where to play and how to play. It's just, and your save carries with you. And this is something that I've dreamt of for like, I don't even know how long, within video games, because, and I think I wrote this in my review also, where it's just like, I think it incentivizes more purchases as well, right? Because you don't have to like limit yourself to one platform, and it gives you more incentive to do multiple purchases right away versus, having to wait for something to get low enough. Like I have Ghost Recon and, Division and Steep on multiple platforms, but I also waited for them to get like super duper low.
Yeah, I did too. I waited till like the $10 mark before I did it.
Right. And so like it was, yeah, exactly. I did the same thing, with those games. So it's but like for something like I got the gold edition on the Switch, and like I want to get the gold edition on PC. That's $200 that you could have right there.
Mhm.
It's that's that you could have had with so many other games
Yeah.
as well. So but instead it's just like just trickling. Oh, what is that, like $5 now? Oh yeah, why not? Here you go.
Yeah.
So uh but yeah, no, it's fantastic. In terms of performance, like you were asking, just to get back on that topic, my biggest issue really is draw distance, just because the world in Immortals is like really, really beautiful and
Yeah.
colorful. So like not being able to see as far as you would like, not that it's like the worst, but there's a lot of fog. Like you
I
can see it.
could
You can drive.
see forever on the Series X. I was
It's
seeing
crazy.
things at the beginning that it was so far away that it was blacked out, because I could see it through the fog. It was that far away. Of course, I'm
Right.
playing it on performance mode. See, you got a performance and then you've got quality. I haven't tried the quality yet. I'm just playing on performance because it's 60 frames a second. So,
Right.
it's like, I think I'd rather have the 60 frames than. But I honestly, and I'll say this when we get to talking about the Xbox, there's a lot of times I can't tell the difference in quality and performance. So, but
Well, it's weird that they still have that. Like, it would make sense for something like the One X, but I think with the Series X being as powerful as it is, like you should be able to do both at this point.
well,
Have
you
both.
should be able to. And Valhalla was like that until they did the update this week, and now it's got quality and performance for some reason. So,
Okay.
I believe with Valhalla, it was locked into quality mode. So now they're giving you the option of the performance.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I think it's just because sometimes frames do kind of drag down, not far, and that's another thing that I'm going to fuss about here in a little while. But I'm not going to argue over 5 frames a second.
Yeah,
That's just,
because
I don't know if we're gonna find too many like true 4K 60 games on this gen for like the AAA titles. I think we might see it with like dynamic 4K, but completely native. I don't know. I don't think these consoles are there.
I think they will be. I think that's a big thing right now that a lot of people are talking about is Digital Foundry's saying, well, this is the game that performs better on the 5 than the Series X, and it shouldn't, because the Series X has this and this and this, and the PS5 is overclocking to get this and this and this. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Well, the one thing is dev kits for the PS5 came out in February. Dev kits for the Series X didn't come out until June. So, system launched in November. So June, July, August, September, October. They only had 4 months to really optimize stuff on Xbox. But we're talking, I've seen some of these videos, we're talking like 2 or 3 frames difference. And, the Sony people are planting their flag going, look, Mark Cerny's a genius. He figured out how to beat the Xbox, even though it's more powerful. It's really not. It's like, no, it's 2 or 3 frames. You're not even going to notice that. If it's lagging down into like 20 frames or something like that, then yeah, call me then. But 60 and 55, please. Your eyes can't tell the difference in it, and I don't buy that. I can't tell the difference in 60 and 120, and I've tried them both, and I don't see a difference in 60 and 120.
I think you should play something a lot more competitive then, because having like using Overwatch, for example, or something fast paced. I mean, you probably won't notice the difference in something like Assassin's Creed, for example. But for example, like I used to play Overwatch now, 60 frames for up until basically a couple months ago, until I got my 120 hertz, well, rather 144 hertz monitor that can overclock to 165, and playing Overwatch like that, I'm spoiled. I can't go by. Like, it's crazy because like either way, 60 frames is still great, but when you go to 120 plus frames, oh my god, it's hard. It's
I
butter.
cannot. I did it on, what was it? One of the shooters has 120. Oh, it was Halo. It was one of the Halo. All the Halo plays in 120 hertz if you want, or 120 frames per second, single player or multiplayer. And I switched it, and I couldn't see a difference in it. But I also have old man eyes, who has, I'm nearsighted and I'm farsighted, and anything twitchy to
sorry,
me, it's
I
once
just
I'm.
had this vision of you like getting it really close to your monitor like this. I've got it. I can feel
Yeah,
the
I mean,
difference.
I have no depth perception too. A lot of times you
Yeah.
can tell when I park. I park sometimes very far away, but
The
I
big-
can't tell a difference in it. To me, from 30 to 60, oh yeah, I can tell a buttery smooth difference. But from 60 to 120, I can't really tell a difference. But again,
I
that's
mean,
just
correct me
me.
if I'm wrong, John. I don't know as much as I'd like to about TVs, but don't you need to have a TV that can support that sort
Yes,
of frame rate?
yes,
If your TV is not outputting correctly, you're not going to see the difference between 60 and
exactly.
120. So
It's
I don't know if your TV does or not. I'm
yes, it
just
does.
speculating at this point. But okay,
4K 60 or it'll do 1080p 120. So I can knock it down to 1080p and it'll do 120
gotcha.
frames.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but my TV doesn't do 4K 120. It only does 1080p 120. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if you knock it down, most of them are going to do 60 though, unless, like Dennis says, it's a competitive shooter. Most of those shooters do 120.
And it's interesting to play like Warzone, and I watched some videos comparing like how it runs modern gaming PC versus like a standard PS4, and then you can tell play against crossplay.
Oh yeah,
against PS and Xbox One, you will have an edge on a PC. Even a mid-range gaming PC will have an edge.
yeah.
It's
If you
just
can pull those frames, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. One of those things where, maybe if I had new monitors with a 1 millisecond refresh rate too, they just want your standard monitors. Maybe that would make a difference too.
Yeah.
But would I be able to tell outside of that sort of thing? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe in like Valhalla or Doom Eternal, I can see some difference. But
well, when I went into, I've been playing. I put 15, 20 hours in on the One X with Valhalla, and the minute I booted it up on the Series X, I immediately could tell a difference. The textures were better, the lighting was better, the graphics was better. It was moving at 60 frames per second, not 30, and it was just like, ooh. And I just stood there, just going around in a circle, going, look at that! Oh my gosh, it's smooth. No more screen tearing. That game on the Xbox One, on the One X, is during cutscenes, sometimes it looks like an old movie reel. It kind of would be the screen would tear and it would look very wavy. It'd be like, oh, look at that screen tearing. That's terrible. Yeah, that stuff is gone on the Series X.
I think I feel like when they did Odyssey, like that was almost meant to do, because like on the original, it was fine on One X and PS4 Pro and obviously PC, but like if you had the base model systems, like God bless you, because like the Assassin's Creed Odyssey was like virtually unplayable at that point. It was insane how bad
my
it was.
500 gigabyte original PS4.
Yeah, I mean it blew my mind, and as soon as I mean that's all I did was run around and go, look at this! Oh my gosh, Assassin's Creed at 60 frames a second. We cut a head off. It's like it was crazy, funny. But yeah, I mean, and I switched it to quality mode, and I literally couldn't tell a difference between quality mode.
I'm gonna have to play with those modes, and quality and performance, and see what happens with PC.
Yeah,
I spent probably about 45 minutes switching back and forth between screenshots today, looking at Miles Morales, trying to decide when I start playing it, do I want to play on performance mode or fidelity mode? And the only difference that I could even see was in reflections on the buildings. And to me, like, that's cool, but I don't think that's going to be enough. And in that game in particular, just in my opinion, I think it overdoes it, because not every pane of glass that you look at is going to be a mirror. Some is going to be more reflective than others, and the fact that they're turning any reflective surface into a mirror it's a little much.
Yeah.
Well, and I haven't even tried a game with ray tracing on it yet. I know Watch Dogs Legions does ray tracing, but I have not booted it up yet. One reason I haven't booted it up is because apparently there's a bug on the Series X version that will not allow the game to save. So if you play so long and you shut it off and go play something else and come back, you start over from wherever you were.
I heard that's just been a big problem in general, because I heard that on PC as well.
Yeah,
where
I had no issues with it on the Series X, so it's like, okay, I've got at least a cloud save in there, so I need to jump on or the One X, so I need to jump on and at least see, because I know that one does ray tracing, so I want to see the neon and all that cool stuff. But
yeah, it's like people are like suffering from like corrupt saves and things like that.
yeah,
too,
that
but-
sucks. I know there's a guy that we follow each other on Twitter, and he's the one that started talking about it. I'm like, really? Well, I'm not playing it on Series X until they get that patch.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to manually save it in that game. They don't give you the option to manually save. So, if you're reliant on checkpoints and it's not checkpointing, then that's a big issue.
There was an article, I can't remember if it was Kotaku or some other site, but the person who wrote the article is basically saying like they literally cannot beat Watch Dogs Legions because the last mission or something, or the second to last mission literally just kept crashing on them, and then every time they tried to like reload, it took them like 10 to 15 minutes to load, just because of the corrupt saves and like all the issues.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got way off topic there with what you've been playing. Sorry,
No, it's fine. But yeah, just to kind of like get it out of the way. Yeah, no, I mean, Immortals is perfectly playable. I think if you want a great, kind of on the go experience, and especially if you end up buying like multiple copies of it, I think you're gonna really enjoy your time on Switch. If you only plan on buying one copy of it, then yeah, maybe and you don't really go out that much, then yeah, maybe maybe a console or PC would probably be preferable. But otherwise, or a different platform. But otherwise, yeah, the Switch version perfectly fine, perfectly playable, and yeah, really enjoyable too.
I wondered about that because
play it on whatever system you get.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was wondering about that because you got Age of Calamity down here, and I hear it has frame rate issues when there's a lot of
and if you don't believe me, it's in the demo too, and it kind of well, actually, this is a good transition because it bothers me that like whenever I constantly hear things about like, oh, it's a work in progress, it's just like, but you're like a couple of weeks until you come out. Like, how much? I mean, yeah, sure, patches happen all the time, and like there's going to be a day one patch, obviously, which could easily improve performance and stuff like that. But it's just when a game, and just to kind of ping pong back between Immortals and whatnot. When a game that large or with so much content, there's only so much you can do, I think, in the course of the next couple of weeks, and like before you release it, and then you're gonna start getting stuff from people who get their hands on it. There's just like, oh, this happened to me, and like which and we've seen it time and time again because I'm sure it's not like they don't test these things, hopefully. But it's but
they're running the tests right now. It only costs you $60 to get into it.
It's an open beta retail build.
Yeah. I've played a lot of those. Betas.
A whole lot. But yeah, no, it's it's like I mean, how much are you going to change really? And it drives me crazy. I think the biggest substantial difference I saw was I remember playing the Division, like the first Division, a year before it came out. A year, because they had it at a convention in Raleigh, and Red Storm Studios I think is in Cary, so they just brought like a demo build over to Raleigh, and so yeah, and then I played a little bit there, and this was an entire year before it before it came out, and and I noticed a lot was different. Like the UI was different, the whole like the way New York looked was different. They made it bigger, and it was like, okay, so like now a year, a lot can happen in a year. But over the course of a few weeks, I mean, because again, game development is easy. Game development itself takes years,
Right.
So like, I mean, people usually get barely even a prototype running within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like it's you can say it's a work in progress, and I'm sure you're going to change a little bit of it, but I don't expect to see something particularly substantial by the time the retail build comes out. And yeah, same thing kind of happened with Hyrule Warriors, where especially in like the first two missions, like my god, like it's some parts like really really chug, which is super weird because I promise you, because I played a lot of the original one on Wii U. I didn't play the one on the port on the Switch, because for me, after like playing the absolute like crap out of it, I was like, I don't want to do that all that over again. I spent over 100 hours in that game getting anything and everything I could. I'm not gonna do that again. I'll do it for the new one. but I won't for something I already played.
Right.
You know, so. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it's I don't know, it's just super weird to me that because we know what the Switch is capable of. Like the Switch has been astounding in terms of what it's accomplished. I mean, yeah, we've seen a lot of disasters like the Outer Worlds and Troll and I and a couple of games like that, but the thing with Hyrule Warriors is like, especially as a first party game. I mean, yeah, it's licensed out. It's Koei Tecmo did it, with Omega Force and Team Ninja, but Nintendo, they're known for their quality and stuff like that. They're not, they don't really. If anyone's going to know how to make a game on their system, it's going to be Nintendo, honestly.
Right.
So, and Breath of the Wild, perfect example. That game is massive, absolutely gigantic, and it was fine. It was fine, no problem. And I know Immortals just came out. Going back to that, runs perfectly fine, plays fine. But then here you go, like, and it's just your typical Warriors game. It's not, you have your 1,000+ enemies on screen at once, and
Right.
stuff like that. And it's not like it's the first Warriors game to come out. There's been One Piece Warriors, there's been Warriors Orochi, there's Samurai Warriors, got about like
Dynasty
3 or 4
Warriors.
Dynasty
Yeah.
Warriors, all on the Switch. All on the Switch, and they all play great for the most part. For the most part, now it's not to say they don't suffer from the occasional frame rate drop, but not anywhere near as bad as this. Though this is like, now again, it's still playable, but it's only certain parts of the map where it's like, oh my lord, what is this slideshow? Like for the most
Yeah.
part, it'll be okay. But there's like certain parts of the map that you will pass through because you have to like take certain points and certain camps and whatnot. But it just gets so crazy sometimes. I don't know, especially when you do like some of the more like the more elaborate moves and things like that, where there's particle effects flying everywhere, and you know 50,000 enemies jumping into the air at once just because you're doing a crazy area of effects, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it can chug. It can chug. It's crazy, and
Yeah,
it's weird that they prioritize 30 over 60 for this game too, just because. Well, most Warriors games have even since PS2 have prioritized frame rate over anything else.
Yeah.
So
Which makes sense for that type of game.
Oh
Very
yeah,
combat heavy.
exactly. Anything that's crazy like hack and slash like that should always try to prioritize that frame rate. So it's weird that Hyrule Warriors, depending on how you look at it, looks and feels and runs better than Age of Calamity did. So on the Wii U, mind you, so, but then again, the reason why I say how you feel about it, but mainly in terms of art direction, because Hyrule Warriors on Wii U, the original one kind of went for a more, for lack of a better word, realistic approach in terms of like their design and stuff like that. It wasn't as stylized as Breath of the Wild is, right? Where you kind of have that more kind of cell shady sort of look. But it's beautiful though. I mean, the game is gorgeous because Breath of the Wild's gorgeous. So of course, being heavily inspired by that and being sort of like a prequel story to Breath of the Wild, it's awesome to see, especially for those that loved Breath of the Wild. And even if you haven't played Breath of the Wild, I think there's still a great game here for you to enjoy, especially if you like hack and slash stuff, like of course Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Darksiders, so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean it's it's a great game in its own right. It's not trying to reinvent anything. At the end of the day, it is still a Musou/Warriors game. So if you've played one before, you already know what to expect when you go in. The formula hasn't changed. It's just kind of but they did more than just a typical reskin though, because it does still feel like an almost detached version of Breath of the Wild, where it's not open world anymore, but you can still kind of do those sort of things that you did in Breath of the Wild. You can do the cooking, right? You get recipes as you you have the side quests as well. You can get the mounts, right? You can but the biggest, I think, part and the biggest difference is, I think, being able to, and why I love Hyrule Warriors the first one so much, is just being able to play as all these different characters and not being limited to Link all the time. You get to play as Zelda finally. You get to play as Impa from Breath of the Wild. You get to play as all these characters, even some of the new ones that they introduced and stuff like that. You get to play as the champions, which is like awesome. Like Urbosa is like unbelievable, and yeah, it's it's a more kind of, I don't say this in a negative way, because I know when you kind of hear this, it sounds negative, but yeah. So I was gonna say stripped down. But I was gonna say, but I think a better word would actually be more of a. It's more of a streamlined version. I think that's a better word to use. More of a streamlined version of Breath of the Wild. So just think of a more level-based Breath of the Wild versus an open world one, and one that they kind of put a big emphasis on the combat versus the sort of puzzles and this the if you want to call it stealth that you could do in Breath of the Wild before. This one's very much kind of go in guns blazing, but you can still kind of do what you did in Breath of the Wild. So you have those kind of elemental kind of properties that kind of affect each other and whatnot. Things that can burn will burn if you have something that's worth to burn them with. There's still Korok seeds spread up out everywhere. So yeah, and you have the bokoblins and all those all those characters and stuff like that. The cutscenes I think is where the game I think really kind of excels the most, where they're very well done. I would argue even better than they were in Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, first of all, I don't think had enough. And because you really had to go look for them first of all, and then on top of that, like because they were just like, oh yeah, Zelda finally has voice acting, but there was like 5 cutscenes at most. It's ridiculous, so but this one, like, they give you the full-on cinematics, like full on, like there's stuff happening versus just like 2 people kind of standing next to each other and talking. Like Breath of the Wild, again, great game, fantastic game in its own right, arguably one of the best on Switch, but it in the cinematic department, they could have just done a lot better. I would argue Twilight Princess had better cinematics than Breath of the Wild actually did. But Age of Calamity really kind of excels in that department, though, in the cinematics. Like if you wanted to just watch like a movie version on YouTube, I think you'd be like, oh my god, this is a great movie. Like with skipping all the levels and whatnot, I think you still have something there to like really enjoy. So. Right. But yeah, I've been playing that as well. It's really great. So the last 2 games that I've been playing, this is the one that I've been playing the last like 48 hours really, which is Morbid, the 7 Acolytes. Now we've talked about Souls type games like quite a bit because I know Nathaniel was a big fan of them, but I'm not usually into those types of games. And, like I've there's some that I enjoy to a degree, but it's that sort of nature of just like, I'm more, I come from a hack and slash like background, so being able to kind of do more sword dancing can be, especially if it's more like, so that kind of with a roguelite approach, right, where you have to constantly start over or lose things and stuff, that can be kind of a problem for me because I feel like I'm going insane every time. And again, it's not. It's not. It
depends on the game for me. If it's a fun game, then I'm kind of that.
Well, that's the thing. Kind of like we've talked about Hades a couple of times, right? Like Hades is just brilliant.
Yeah,
Hades
is just Dead Cells. I'm fine with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But give me Dark Souls.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that. But this is think of like a retro version of it. Like it has that sort of 16-bit beautiful art style to it, that pixel art to it.
Okay. I know what one this is now that you say that. I remember seeing
the devs. They sent me a copy. They were really nice and just sent me a copy, and yeah, like it's. What I like about this is accessible in a couple of different ways. Now, there's no difficulty select, so we're all going to have the same experience. It's going to be hard, and you're going to die a lot. I've already died more times than I'd like to admit, and yeah. So if you want to talk about more, but yeah, it's just it gets difficult, but you don't lose anything. And I think that's the most important part. Like, I don't mind going back to the beginning of the map. I don't mind the enemies respawning because I don't mind trying again. But there becomes a limitation of just like, but thankfully they let you keep your experience. So honestly, if anything, I think of it this way. Because as someone who grew up with RPGs, I think of it this way. I'm like, oh, more experience. Even if I die, it's more experience to keep leveling me up. Because you don't lose your experience either. So you don't lose your experience. You don't lose your skill points. You don't lose your items. You don't lose everything that you've done. You replenish your health and your stamina when you die as well. So that way you can start fresh again and just keep moving forward and just keep trying. So I like stuff like that. Now, again, it's brutal, but at the very least, it's a little more accommodating in that regard, right? Where it's just like, you don't, you get punished for dying, but you don't feel like you have to start over again.
Well, you're still making some kind of progression because your experience is still
exactly
there,
exactly. And so you just try again, and eventually you will get it. Like even if you die like 3,000 more times, eventually like you'll get to the point where you just have so much experience where you're going to end up one-shotting that thing that
Right.
one-shot you
You'll
about
steamroll
1,000 times.
eventually.
Yeah, exactly. But they do good jobs, right? Where like it's like every once in a while, like it's you're now you can play it smart. Like I mean, there was one level I just ran through everything. I was like, I'm not dealing with any of this. Like I just kind of started rolling. I was ran through. I was like, because I died a million times, so I was just like, you know what, I'm tired of this. So I just kind of ran through everything, kind of dodging the best that I could, and then eventually I did end up making it to the next spot, but not without having to do a boss fight though. That's the thing. Like they make sure also that you have those roadblocks, because they could you run through it, sure, but they're not without working for it.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have those guardians that are between each section to let you proceed. Like sure, you passed all the enemies, but now you got the big boy to worry about. That's going to be like, yo, you're not moving forward unless you get past me.
Right.
So but yeah, no, it's for someone who's not into those types of games, I'm having a blast with this, honestly. But it's also a game that like you can only I don't think this is a game you can binge. It's at least for me. This is just talking because I'm not used to these sorts of games.
Yeah.
But because there is some sort of progression, it's just like, okay, well, a little bit more, a little bit more,
Yeah.
a little bit more, and then you take a breather because it's just like I'll come back later, right? So just put it down for a little bit and then come back later, try it again, and try it again. But it is gonna feel excruciating after a point where you're just like, man, like you just have to put this down. So it's not a game you want to binge as much as you want to, because you get that feeling like I kind of want to, but then I'm just kind of like, no, because I'm gonna get more frustrated. The more frustrated I get, the more a higher chance I promise you I'm gonna have of dying because I'm not gonna be thinking straight.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they give you all the necessary tools. It's super responsive. You have your dodges, you have your parries, even though the parries are kind of weird in how they work. The inventory system is I think probably the most interesting, because the inventory system, it's good because again you don't lose everything, but it's set up in a way that I'm going to use Resident Evil 4 as an example. That you remember Resident Evil 4, like your inventory,
turning stuff around.
exactly. Yeah, to kind of make it
like a
fit.
Tetris.
Exactly, right? So like if you have like a weapon that takes up like 2 blocks out of like the 4 blocks of a column that you have in your inventory, if you want to save some space and make it just take 1 block of the column, you can kind of just kind of
tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, it kind of works like that. So you do have a limited inventory, but it's also very flexible as well. I think they give you, I mean, I haven't had any inventory issues so far. I put a couple hours into it, so it's been pretty good so far. In terms of, I haven't worried about my inventory at all. It's just weird because when you open up your inventory, it's like the game doesn't pause, so everything you have to. It's hard because there's no like quick buttons either. So like it's hard that like like for example, earlier today I just did a very difficult boss fight. After dying like 2 or 3 times, I did finally beat the boss, but it was hard that like I had to like dodge fast enough and then really quickly press the minus button, and then try to like re-equip ammo, or like take a potion really quick, so on and so forth. But it's like, but like I can't move if the inventory thing, the inventory screen is open yet the world is still going. It doesn't pause the world at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so that becomes a little problematic at times. But not to say it's not doable. It's perfectly doable. I did it, but it's but yeah, things could be smoother in that regard. But I guess that's just part of its difficult gameplay.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
that's
don't give it a don't give it a super easy inventory system. Let's just let's have them work for the inventory as well.
Yeah.
And then on the topic of those types of games, Chronos Before the Ashes, got that sent to me as well. That game is actually, interestingly enough, if you look at that game, I was surprised when I found out that game, I mean, it makes sense when you like look at the titles, but that game apparently is a prequel. I did not know this. It's a prequel to Remnant uh, something Ashes. It has a similar title, but Remnant, like it was on Gamepass for a while. You might recognize it. But yeah, they have two different art directions. Like Remnant has that more sort of Souls kind of gothic approach, and it's also kind of it tries to be a little bit photorealistic, but this one's a little more stylized. It looks a lot more almost like it's heading towards that area of Immortals Phoenix Rising, almost with that sort of stylized, sort of 3D animation approach. But yeah, it is a prequel to that, but it is also kind of a Souls-like as well. But instead of being retro, it's very much modernly built. It has more of like a polygonal sort of approach. Games like Air or you know or like super hot polygonal like that, things like that. So but yeah, it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable so far. And again, this is coming from someone that doesn't really like those sorts of games. But thankfully, this one is a little bit more accessible because you can change the difficulty. So if the normal mode is not working out for you, you can make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
This one has a slight kind of sort of character creation as well. You can kind of choose between a male and a female character, as well as changing a couple things, not too much, but changing kind of outfits and eye color, things like that. And but yeah, it's not super in depth, like say something like it was just like like your typical kind of create a character sort of thing. But yeah, it's enjoyable. I think the most shocking part to me was just the fact that when I found out like it's supposed to be like a prequel to Remnant. And I was like, what? But they look like two completely different games.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but yeah, really enjoyable. I think both of those games either are like $20 or $25. The last two I spoke of, so Morbid and Chronos. So if that's your sort of flavor, if that's your sort of things, go check them out. I have them both on the Switch. That's where I've been playing them, and they both run and play fantastically. So I think the biggest thing with Chronos is like you just have a little bit of a lower resolution, but other than that, looks and plays great.
Yeah.
So yeah,
sweet. All right, Robert, I'm going to go ahead and let you go next so we can hear about the PlayStation 5 since Nathaniel's not here.
Oh man, I have to follow up Dennis.
Well,
yeah,
I figured it'd be that way because Eric's just been playing the normal every other thing, so except for one thing. So.
Yeah, well, I played a lot more than I usually do. I finally found a little bit of time here to where I can play quite a bit of different things, a little bit of each thing. So I've been going back and just trying to clear out my backlog as best as I can. Since we're here at the new console generation, I'm trying to get through all those things that I kind of left hanging over the last year or so when I wasn't playing so much. Before I jump into all the new stuff.
I said that back in the Genesis days, and I'm still trying to catch up.
Yep, I'm making every effort I can, giving it the college try. So I went back and exactly. I went back and I finally was able to get through the ending of The Last of Us. I thought I had been pretty far along into it. Turns out I was probably just about over halfway. So I spent like I don't know, the better part of an entire day wrapping that one up. And man, yeah, it really like at the end it just kind of like it just weighed me down. Like I didn't know what to feel. Thinking about it critically, of course it was it was gorgeous and everything was smooth, and the things that they're doing with their cinematics are just unmatched. But the story, it's certainly not a feel good story.
Yeah.
You don't want to. It's not that there's an unhappy ending, but much like the first one, it's just kind of like lingers there for a moment. And it's very thought provoking. And I thought going in it'd be cut and dry, like, oh yeah, I'm rooting for this person. I'm all about it. And then it's just every step of the way, it's like no one's really a good person. No one's really a bad person. It's just
they're just a person.
Yeah, they're just trying to live their best life, and
you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both. There you go.
Try to platinum it when it's done, but
I don't know if I can do it.
I'm gonna need like another third of a playthrough, and I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah. Well, wait till the remastered version comes out on the PlayStation 5.
No.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be like the trophy list.
I hope
it's gonna be like the trophy list for remastered the first game, where it's like you need to beat the game on more difficult.
Yeah, that's whenever I think it's a sort of trophy like that, I'm just like, okay, well, that's it for that.
Ultra hard.
Yeah, as much as I do enjoy trying to platinum the games that I really love, just to kind of like show my support for that game, if they have trophies that are complete this on this difficulty level and this difficulty level, and then attain all of these things online. Like those trophies just aren't there for me. I don't have that much time to just replay games all
The
the time.
best thing about Spider-Man is I fired up. It's like, you need to do all this. I'm like, look, it's all on the map already. You're tempting me in all the right ways.
I just don't have that much time.
That's going to be one of the
game anymore.
Yeah. Time, and that's right, John. Is having time and being able to play. Do you have time?
And that's the thing that blows my mind. I follow a lot of guys on Twitter who they've got like 60 or 70 platinums. They're like, look, I've got 15 platinums this year so far and stuff like that. I'm like, you're married, right? I know you don't have kids, and I don't have kids, but you spend time with your wife, right? You know,
do you ever leave your
they're just staying up late, getting up early. You know, they're getting that alone.
I'm guessing they're like one of the guys we used to play with. His wife would sit beside him while he played, and so he would play all the time. But man, when you're playing Destiny Online and you hear, "Honey, let's go to bed. Come on, it's time. Let's quit playing. Let's go to bed." It's like, dude, just go to bed then and lay down until she falls asleep, and then come back and then let me know. You know? I mean, that's fine.
Well, Michelle likes to sit there, and she's usually doing something on her phone or drawing on her iPad, and she'll just stick it out for the long haul. If I'm playing a game, she's just gonna fall asleep on the couch until I wake her up and say it's bed.
I don't know. Nikki goes to bed at 9:00 on a school night, and if I'm not working, it's like, okay, then I come down and I'll play till 3 or 4 in the morning, or whatever. But but it's like when she's
just committed to getting that quality time.
Yeah, it's like I just don't. And when we get done eating dinner, I'm like, man, I'd really like to go downstairs and play for a couple hours. And she's like, no, well, you could go ahead. I'm like, I've been out of town for 3 days. And, I don't feel like coming down here and playing, when you're up there just piddling. I don't feel right about that. Even though I know she doesn't care, but, at the same time, it's like, man.
It's weird. Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. It's like it just almost feels disrespectful.
Yeah.
Even if it's okay, like even if there's no repercussions, it just feels.
Even though I know there's no repercussions.
And you'll see me.
I know there's no repercussions, or she says it until someday when she gets mad, and then then those repercussions will come up. It's like, no, you said.
I'll pause the game after like every 3 or 4 hours. And like, hey, you sure you don't want to do something? Like we can watch something. And... No, it's fine. You're having fun.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. All right. But anyway, so Last of Us, depressing.
No spoilers, please. I'm still working on that very slowly.
You can spoil it all you want.
No spoilers. John, we're not getting into your opinions on the game right now.
I know. I'm not giving you any. I'm just saying I'm not playing it. That's all I'm saying.
No worries, Dennis. There's no spoilers here. Just kind of general like feelings, not even thoughts, because I'm still unpacking my thoughts on that one. It's just.
How long ago did you beat?
Let's see. When was my day off before today? Last weekend, maybe Sunday.
Okay, gotcha.
Probably.
It's still fresh in your brain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's not even a week. So.
Man, for me, I think it was June, and I remember just being like, "Oh." I keep thinking I see it on my shelf. I'm like, "Oh, I could do the platinum." I'm like, no, I don't know. Got so many other games.
Yeah, it's definitely not a platinum for me. As much as I enjoy, I guess, in quotes, the game. It's really the story for me for that one. Like I'm just there to kind of enjoy the ride and experience what the director wants me to experience. As far as gameplay, like it's good enough. It plays well. Frame rate's good. Like everything about it is top notch. It's just after a while in that type of game, I don't know. The gameplay does feel a little repetitive at times. It is an evolution for sure of The Last of Us Part 1, but it really isn't that much different. There's just a few quality of life enhancements, and that's about it. But it's not something that I think I really want to go back and experience right away. I guess if I was going to do platinum, I'd probably just try and skip through the cutscenes at that point. But I have a feeling that doing that would even burn me out more, since I don't have breaks in between the long stretches of dark hallways and clickers.
What's that?
So yeah, right. in the same vein of going back and finishing up old titles, I had started the Crash Insane trilogy probably. When did it come out? 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago.
Maybe. I really don't remember,
pick,
honestly.
Yeah, picked it up on sale after it came out, and I'd never really played the Crash games growing up. I didn't have a PS1, so I was really excited to dive into these, and it was parts of it were really easy, I thought, and then parts of it were just stupid hard. Like if you're just like mainlining the game and you're just going from start to finish on every level, I could probably get through 80% of them without dying. But if I'm going off the beaten path and trying to do anything extra, whether it's the bonus levels with getting all the boxes or trying to get a secondary gem or something like that, that's when it really is just there to screw you over and just teach you a lesson.
That's
but I did finally get through all three of them. Oh yeah, for sure. And they're not long games at all, but especially one and two, they really just kind of felt like the same game. Since I played them back to back, there wasn't much improvements between the two.
Mm-hmm. They came out real close to each other.
And you don't even
back in the day.
Probably, yeah. And a little bit of that evolution is going to be lost on me because playing through with the remastered trilogy, you have the same graphical set for all three games.
Right.
So you don't really get to enjoy that so much until the third game. The third game I really think is the shining crown jewel of the trilogy, and it does a lot to add to just kind of like helping you feel like you have more control over your character. There's unlockable power-ups of your skills, whether it's being able to spin a little bit longer. Double jumping is now a thing. At some point you can unlock running a little bit faster by holding R2, which for the speedrunner, that really helps going back to get all those goals. But even in the design of the game or the levels, they really open them up so it's not so much side scrolling all the time. Sometimes you're getting kind of like this isometric viewpoint as you're going through, and there's like expansive fields, and it really allows you to appreciate the remastered graphics. Yeah. And I thought that one was really cool. That one did have like racing levels on your motorcycle. They had flying in some like bi-engine planes and some cool stuff to break up the monotony of it. I thought there was a little stuff that was in there that was confusing. I don't know if you remember the level set in there, but the whole concept for the third one is that you're traveling through different periods of time.
That's right, yeah.
And I don't know if the menu is the same as it was back in the day, but you're going through and you're like, here's world 1, and it shows you like a theme. Let's say it's like the Arabian Nights theme. And you go into level 1 and it's Arabian Nights. You're like, cool, that makes sense. Then you go into level 2 and now I'm back in like medieval like France or something. And then there's another one you're in a Chinese theme. And I'm like, well, why are all of the themes in all of the levels when each level has its own theme? It really didn't make a lot of sense to me, except for the game's called Warped and you're just constantly going through time, but it just seemed like a weird design choice.
It's been so long since I played it that I don't remember. I remember playing 1 and 2, but I don't remember a whole lot about 3.
Gotcha.
May have been when the Dreamcast came out and I abandoned the PlayStation 1.
It could be. I got through the third one pretty quick though. That one, with the quality of life improvements, definitely made it a lot easier to just kind of to power through. I did that one in about a week or so with my schedule. Yeah. I went through and I played the future tense level, which was at the time like the first time there was a new level for the old Crash style of gameplay since back in the 90s or early 2000s, which was by and far the best of all the levels. It just added all the things in that they learned over time, and super hard. That one was super hard, but I enjoyed it. It really made me want to pick up the latest one, and it was on sale on the PSN over the Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff. But
I hear I'm
making myself hold out. Yeah. Everything about it looks really, really good. But I need a break. Three Crash games is enough for now.
I could see that.
We'll move on to some other things until I feel like punishing myself again. And let's see, today I started back into Final Fantasy VII Remake. It had been, I want to say, since March or something since I had played it, and I'm about halfway through that one now. And I had forgotten really a lot about how the game presented itself, and it's just this really cool mixture of ideals between old school and new school game design. And it's got like all that old school, like super cringy Japanese influenced or inspired comedy, and voice acting's a little cringy, and a lot of that's also, Cloud. He's just super awkward around anybody. But then you have all the new age, graphics, and the lighting in that game is especially fantastic with it in HDR, and playing all of these on PS5. The load times are just super, super fast. I don't even think you really see load times in Remake. What's that?
You just blink and it's up, right?
Yeah, it's especially in Last of Us 2. Once you're in level, when you die, the loads were pretty quick anyway in that one, but it's like 1002, and you're ready to hit X and just get right back in there.
It's like that on the
it's pretty
Series X
insane.
too. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's been what, not even 3 weeks since these consoles have come out, and I'm already just getting to a point to where super spoiled, and like, what do you mean I have load times? What is
I go
this?
back to the Switch and I have to wait here for 5 minutes while this game loads off a memory card of all things.
Right.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. I don't even think I've played a game yet on the PS5 that has like the backwards compatibility the boost modes or whatever. It's just whatever improvements the SSDs are doing to it.
Yeah.
So it's still really cool. I'm really looking forward to some of the optimized experiences, Ghost of Tsushima and then PS5.
One thing that I've been kind of curious about though is like SSDs, like, I mean, obviously they're incredibly fast and I think they're going to be a big help, but like, what if we end up getting to that point though where like games become so big again? I mean, they're already big, but like if it sort of caps out where like the SSDs are going to start feeling like hard drives because the games have so much to load as they get bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of design and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, how fast can it actually load everything as the games themselves have more to load,
Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. And that is a concern that I've had since they announced all of this stuff. But with the way that they hide load times anyway, like, oh, we're going to make you squeeze through this tight space while we quickly load a cutscene or the next large area, or even in the cutscene, we'll start loading stuff in the background, that it's really just like the assets that are loading in
it may be that way. It may get to that point where it's constantly loading in the background and we just never know it,
Yeah, it's just able to load it far enough out now,
like buffer,
that it's already there by the time you get to it. Exactly.
Like when you're watching
it's
a
just
YouTube
able to buffer
video,
further away.
Buffer further away from it. That's the only thing I can think of. But I mean,
like when you increase the quality and it starts buffering smaller and smaller amounts, and hopefully your internet keeps up with it.
Yeah, and I think with the Series X, I think a lot of some of it will be cloud side. I think some of it, some of that will load cloud side, and you'll never know it. Which is good and bad.
Yeah.
I feel like it could go either way.
Yeah, because I mean, eventually, someday those servers will be gone, and you may want to pull out an old system and play, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like in 15, 20 years when I pull out a system and servers are gone and patches can't be downloaded. And
yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle all of it. Yeah. And I think things are going to get even better before we see anything like that where it starts to get worse, just as developers start really building these games for the next gen consoles specifically. I think you're going to get to see that stuff optimized even more.
It's like Sony said, 2 years. It'll be 2 years before we see a true next gen game, they figure. So I'd say that's probably a fair statement too. So
yeah, I mean, it was even the same. It's the same way every generation.
Oh, yeah,
right? There's always a year or two transition period, and then you'll have a year or two where they coincide together barely, and then they phase out the old system.
Yeah,
It's just how it always is. Till that install base gets to a point to where it's more cost effective.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we're going to see. One thing about Final Fantasy VII's gameplay that stuck out to me in kind of a negative light is the combat. It wants to feel very fast-paced and action-oriented, but it does the same thing that Final Fantasy 15 did, and that you have the option to either tap the attack button or hold the attack button to some degree. And I just find myself getting locked into these chains that you can't really break out of quick enough to dodge. And that's how I like to play my action games. I'm so used to things like Devil May Cry, the whole series, and that it's frame by frame. I can cancel out of any attack I want and just roll out of the way in a split second and use those rolling frames to protect myself. And that's how I want to play this one. And it's been hard for me to wrap my brain around a little bit of a slower, methodical approach, going in and pausing, or not pausing, but slowing down the gameplay speed as I select certain commands, and then switching from someone's special attack over to my next person to go ahead and preload their special attack, when I really just want to hammer through and then watch all the special effects on the screen because they just look so dang cool. But the game's not really built for that. And we'll see. I'm sure I'll get used to it, but I wish it had that high speed action, just gameplay to it. I wanted them to commit to one way or the other, and it seems like they're just trying to appeal to both people, and they didn't go far enough with either.
Yeah, I can see that.
As far as PS5 games goes, I did pick up No Man's Sky once they released the PS5 updated version of it, since it also came with the ability to play the PS4 version. That way, me and Michelle can actually attempt to play that one co-op. And I hadn't played it since probably a week or so after the game launched, way back in like 2015, 16. And I was like, I'm just going to start over. I'm not going to copy over my save and see what all is there. And it was a good thing I did, because before I even got to where I was in my original save, they were teaching me all the new base building things.
So much has changed.
How all that stuff. Oh my gosh. And now there's like 4 different storylines going on at one time, as opposed to just race to the center of the universe. And in the beginning, it's like, this is going to be one huge, epic, space adventure. And I was super stoked. So we went through individually probably about 5 or 6 hours on our own first, to where we could at least get off of our planets and had a warp drive to where we could feel comfortable moving around the galaxy if we needed to, because we didn't really know how multiplayer was going to work. Because the one thing they haven't fixed in this game is telling you how to do things.
Oh, yeah.
They still just kind of like throw you in there and like, here's a concept, but I'm not going to tell you how to initiate any of it. So there's technically a single player and multiplayer mode when you boot up the game. It lets you choose, I'm going to hop into this one or hop into that one. And as far as I can tell, there's not really a difference, because I can hop into the single player game and I can just invite her over and it'll warp her to my star system, and she can land on my planet, and there we are.
That's a lot better than
now
I'm in
multiplayer mode.
But
you couldn't even see them.
You just
originally.
had to find each other. Yeah, you just had to hope you were near each other and find each other. Yeah,
and then eventually
it sounds
orbs before.
After a while, they had the orbs. It sounds super convenient until you land on the same planet, and it's like every 5 minutes somebody starts falling through the world. And all of a sudden it'll warp you back, but all that momentum is still there, and you're damaged. All my stuff's broken. I died, and I have to go get all my things. And for about 2 hours, it was just constantly Michelle was falling through the world, and I was just like, is it because I'm on PS5 and it's slightly updated? No, okay, that seems all right. And at launch, the PS5 version, the HDR was like super overblown, and I couldn't even see. I had to turn off my flashlight even at nighttime. If there was any light source, the bloom would be so bright. I couldn't tell what I was looking at. I had to turn off HDR on the PlayStation to even like know what I was doing.
And there's no way to
Thankfully,
adjust.
a patch came.
I was going to say there was no way to
No,
adjust that HDR.
it's on or off.
Oh, jeez. And see, I get all the games like I've seen on Xbox. You can adjust the HDR,
right?
And I have no idea what any of that is, so I just leave it because it's like I don't know what numbers I'm looking at, and I don't even know how to go about finding out. You know, how should you adjust your HDR? I don't know. I don't know.
Adjust the lumens to like.
It's great. I mean,
I'm like, well, what does that?
What's a lumen?
it's always that's a measure of brightness, John.
Oh, I thought it was like a little green guy that walked off the ledge. Oh, that's a lemming. A lemming. My bad. I get those confused.
That's the ludens, which that's
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
It just seems like everything that Hello Games puts out there, they don't even wait for beta or pre-alpha. They're just like, we have a concept, and it's in a usable state. Put it in there, and we'll just let things happen.
Yeah.
And after playing for a week, I logged in one day because there was an update. I read about a patch they just did, and it was to fix the HDR and stability. I'm like, this is my patch. This is what I need. I logged in, and all of a sudden, my character was stuck in place. I couldn't move. I was like, "Oh, is my whole system frozen?" No. Okay, I can go into menu. I can move around the menu. I just can't look, and I can't move. And I'm like, well, I'm not stuck in between any objects. It didn't spawn me anywhere weird, and I'm turning off my game. I'm turning off my system. Each time I load back in. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm done right now.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Michelle because this was before she had woken up for the day. And I was just like, maybe I can warp over to where you are if you invite me to your game, but I just don't feel like messing with it right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I logged into my PlayStation a couple of days later and saw that there was another patch, and I was just like, okay, let's see. I loaded up, and then thank God I could move around again, and it fixed some issues. We had created a massive base on one of the paradise worlds that I found where there was like a patch of trees and bushes, and I created like a huge like arboretum around it, made entirely of glass that connected to my base. And we had gone back there at one point, and just panels were missing. And I'm like, wait, my settings are set to that nobody can touch my base,
right,
unless you're in my party. Like, how am I missing things? How are people destroying my base? And apparently it was just a glitch of things not appearing until you're right in front of them, and they fixed that too. And I'm like, great, everything works. I'm still really annoyed with this game, and I'm not playing it right now. So that was my journey returning to No Man's Sky. I was really excited to like come back to this podcast and be like, here's this redemption story. Hello Games has done it. This is finally their vision. And I'm like, not quite. They're almost there.
Here's what's made me enjoy No Man's Sky so much, and why I keep playing it on and off every once in a while, is because you have to break the game before the game breaks you. Let me explain. Basically, the best way to enjoy this game, I think, is on PC with mods. Because if you can have like unlimited hyperdrive and like everything's immediately open and like unlimited resources.
Oh yeah, see, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and because you get your own creative mode, the game plays by your rules, Robert. Your rules. You don't have to play by
my rules.
Well, like if you don't want,
like I just want to hang out and enjoy myself and build a big old base. Like I don't want to have to worry about the temperature going from 200 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 300 degrees.
Right.
You know, in the middle of the night. Like I'm just gonna hang out on this paradise world, but it has no resources, so screw me.
Why you get that mod to withstand any and every temperature there is, and then it's great. I'm telling you, and you can go anywhere and everywhere. And then and I know it all sounds like cheating, but for me, for such a beautiful like exploration game like No Man's Sky, I can freely just explore, because I don't want a game like that to stress me out, because everything you were saying stressed me out just listening to it. You know, just with the basics.
Yeah,
like,
when it works, like it is that. It is this kind of almost zen, exploration game where I get to see these cool planets that nobody else has seen before, and I can upload them and name them something stupid, and someone else gets to see that. That's great.
100%.
But not when I'm falling through the world and it's 300.
Yeah, yeah. But it's why I've had such a great time, just with the mods and whatnot. And the modding community is incredibly active.
Yeah.
Like, they have not stopped since that game came out. It's crazy.
Well, let me ask you this: can you mod a light that actually shines and doesn't just kind of glow with no no effect on its surroundings? Because I'm really tired of my base being super dark, even though my ceiling is made of.
Even though I have a glass ceiling, is that what you?
Well, seriously though, like
Uh,
I made it glass so that light could come through. Okay, every piece of glass is apparently tinted pink, and it just keeps getting darker. And then I finally unlocked the ability to have a light emitting roof panel, and I'm like, sweet, I'm going to create a ceiling inside that's made entirely of lights. I walk in, it's just as dark as it was before, but if I look up, I'm blinded because of the bloom. What is this?
I think so. It's weird. Like, you can mess not necessarily with the lighting of a certain place, but you can mess with sort of atmospheres which and like to a degree. I mean, yes, I guess the lighting in general of certain places. Like, for example, like there is a mod actually to decrease the bloom when you're going into a planet, because some planets just have like so much bloom around them.
right.
So you can absolutely disable that with some mods, and then there's other ones, and I mean, and of course, as you can imagine, with increased performance. But then you can make the night skies a lot brighter as well, make the stars themselves brighter. So there's all these like little things that you can change that overall I think would change the lighting. Now, the thing you're talking about with that's inside your base, I don't know how I can help you with that, honestly. But I'm sure there's some
I was
mod.
just hoping you could make a mod and then you just like drop it in my face. I can put it somewhere. That'd be cool. That'd be really.
I'm just trying to think, like, but the thing is, like, when I say there's literally a mod for almost everything, I'm sure there's a mod that someone's made already that kind of gives you certain, uh, like, types of lights. Like, it may not be the light that you already have installed, but you can probably get some custom lights that will probably give you the lighting that you want, though, in your base. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, we were searching Google for I don't know how long, trying to see what people are doing, and it's just so many people complaining about the same thing. And they're like, "Well, you can put these plants around, and they emit a soft green glow." And I'm like, "I'm not trying to jump and jetpack over these plants. Like, I
Right.
just
Right.
want a good looking base."
right.
And let me tell you, a game like this where they've now built this co-op and this base building aspect in, you need to be able to easily share your items. And for the longest time, I just didn't think there was a way. Turns out there is a way. You have to friend them and make them a No Man's Sky friend before you can exchange things. Cool. So when I go to friend you, why doesn't it ever add you to my friends list? But yet it says we're already friends.
What?
It just doesn't show up. It just hasn't the entire time. It shows you as my PSN friend. I can check out your PSN profile, but no, it just doesn't add you. I can't select you. It's fine.
That's
No big
weird.
deal.
Well,
I figured out a way to use the refinery to just leave things in there and allow Michelle to go in there and take things out of the refinery, but I can't give her whatever I want. It has to be able to go into the refinery.
Huh. That's weird.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever. It's good.
I
It's all
think
good.
they really need to start. I mean, I think the good thing about No Man's Sky is they really kind of like did this kind of like space exploration thing for me, right? There's been other ones before, like Rogue Galaxy and like Everspace and Elite Dangerous and things like that, but you could never get out of your ship, and that was the biggest thing for me. Is No Man's Sky kind of was just like, well, no, I mean, you're astronauts, walk around, dude. Like,
Right.
you're not
Yeah.
pilots. So,
Yeah.
and that's been the incredible thing about No Man's Sky. Now, however, everything that you listed, Robert, is exactly why I think now that they've already done their own thing, now start looking at things, especially with the big emphasis on co-op now, is just take the Minecraft approach. Just be Minecraft in space now. Just start making
Yeah.
things easy. Like, where's a simple drop button? Why is
Yeah.
that so difficult? You know what
Do
I
it
mean?
before Minecraft does
Where
it.
are bases?
Right.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
Break Minecraft
where are
before
bases?
Minecraft breaks.
We probably have our base located about 200 yards from a body of water. And I'm like, sweet, I'm going to create this underground tunnel to an underground section of the base, and then we're going to extend it into the water. Thank God I Googled all this stuff before I started, because apparently there's an issue where if you build buildings underground, the world will start to repopulate in those spaces and just demolish your buildings, and you'll see the ground and the rocks and everything just start taking over. And I'm like, okay. Like, you say I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, never mind.
But no, no, I can't.
Not exactly.
I just have to be willing to do it every day.
Jeez.
Yeah, that sounds.
That sounds horrible.
And that's why I was super. What was that?
Well, it just sounds like you're getting like a rock infestation at that point, where it's just like, forget bugs, man. It's like these rocks, they can't stop coming in.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't understand. Where are they coming from?
Give me the raid, but
I've already scanned it. It says it's not an animal.
I can't kill it. It's a rock.
God, raid, but for
so it couldn't have come at a better time. But after all the stress from playing No Man's Sky, we got the code for Spirit of the North for PS5. And what a godsend that game was. So relaxing, man. It was. I think you can start to finish with moderate exploration. I tried to find as much as I could in my playthrough, and I probably got about 70-ish, 75% of all the collectibles. And it's just, gosh, it's gorgeous. It's relaxing. The music is phenomenal, and you're just kind of, if you're into Flower or you're into Journey, like this is like those games combined for gameplay, and just so many cool elements to the art approach. You got your Zelda inspired like light sources and the flowing grasses in the distance, and the light effect just kind of shining off every blade of grass. It's so good. Check out the review so you can get my full impressions on it. But it was really the perfect game, the perfect amount of game for that time.
It seemed like it was going to be really cool, so I went out on my way to get it. And then when I found out it was on PlayStation 5, I was like, somebody's got. I know somebody that's got a PlayStation 5.
I know somebody.
Yeah, I know a guy.
I know a guy.
They are real.
Dennis, you said you did get it?
Yeah.
On Switch, yeah.
It's not just a meme. How is it on Switch? How does it run?
It now, when it initially came out, it did have some performance issues, and I think it was the biggest problem was because of the performance. It lagged a lot. It did suffer from a few crashes, but after a few patches, I mean, it's perfectly fine now. It's another one of those situations, kind of like Chronos that I was talking about earlier, where it's just like, honestly, lower resolution. Otherwise, textures, everything looks clean. Everything looks great. Draw distance fine. But yeah, I'm a big fan of games like that, man. They're just so beautiful. Yeah. Games like that, games like if you love this, go play the first tree. The first tree is like absolutely fantastic. You play as a fox in that one, and yeah, you go through this beautiful world with this narrative of just well, I'm not going to spoil it because it's hard to talk about without spoiling it. But it's the end. The end's a bit. It'll tug on your heartstrings a little bit. But it's a beautiful, astounding game. Games like that, games like you were mentioning, Journey, Flower, basically Abzu, even anything from that game company, which is literally called that game company. I'm not saying
it's not that you don't know their name. That's what they're called. That game company.
I'm not like dismissing whoever.
Yeah, that game company. Oh, really? That's their name.
That one.
Yeah, that one.
But yeah, just it's. Little things, games like that. They just I just love kind of serene experiences like that. Air that I mentioned earlier, talking about the polygonal stuff. That you get to play. Well, you play as like a person, but she can turn into like a falcon. So you can once you like morph into a falcon, you can like fly around and like kind of experience new worlds and puzzles. Very serene. You can't die, nothing like that. Same thing with Faye. I would highly recommend Faye. I thought Faye was awesome. I played that on the Switch as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah. It didn't, it wasn't too glitchy for me. As I said in the review, there was only really two things that I encountered. One was that the haptics in my controller, how every game that now comes out as a PS5 version has to support their new dual actuators and all the haptics. And this one, it's very subtle. It's really only when you're around something that's glowing, you get the little vibration feedback there. But for me, at one point in the game, it just wouldn't stop vibrating. It continued to do so for
I have
an
had
hour before
I love it when
my
games
controller
do
just
that.
died. It just wouldn't stop. The other issue, not really a glitch. It was more so me taking Michelle's advice and her trying to, as she put it, Skyrim the game. As I was stuck in a puzzle trying to obtain one of the items, and I hadn't received the skill yet that I needed, and you had to get into this building, but the doors close. You're on a pressure plate, and you get off the pressure plate. The doors close really quick.
Right.
If you had the ability, you could just zoom right past the doors before they close. But this building's nestled right up against a cliffside, and she's like, "I bet we can get on that cliff, and that's how you get in there because there's no roof on this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe, but I don't think you shouldn't have to work this hard. Like this isn't that kind of game."
Right.
But we did it, and I got on that rock and somehow jumped onto the top of this building, and I got down inside, and I'm like, "Hey, I got the staff. Oh, there's another pressure plate in here that I'm not fast enough to get out of. So now I'm just stuck in this 10 by 10 building. Cool. Thank God there was a restart from last checkpoint option. Otherwise, I would not have finished that game.
I'd have still been stuck in that building today.
That's right. Not really a glitch. We just kind of broke the game and got out of bounds a little bit. No big deal.
That's funny. Yeah.
I did that with Amnesia. I played Amnesia, I think I talked about it in the show a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of podcasts ago, and I got to the point where I just but I did it on purpose though. I like to just see if I can break a game or not, and I went out of bounds, and sure enough, I went just completely off the map. But then I just started falling indefinitely, and I was like, okay, I should probably restart this.
Those are the best. You just never.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I like breaking a game, just not when I'm trying to complete it on a deadline.
Yeah, not when you're trying to review it.
Right.
Unless they specifically want you to try to break the game.
Yeah, unless they need me to contact them so they can patch.
Yeah, exactly. So. All right, Eric. So what have you been playing?
Let's see. Oh, nothing much. I did. This is interesting. My Xbox One. We talked about this before. My Xbox One is actually from the UK.
Yeah.
It's an Amazon refurbished one. I went ahead and tested out some original Xbox games and some 360 games to see what happened, and they just fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was pretty sure the systems were region free.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was mostly concerned about the original Xbox, just backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
But nope, it did GTA San Andreas with no issue. I spent 10 minutes playing it and went, I don't really want to play this game. But I did play about an hour of Left 4 Dead because I've actually never played the first Left 4 Dead.
I love Left 4 Dead. It's so fun to get the 4 guys together and just play that game. I need to buy. I used to have them on 360. I don't think I have them anymore. I need to buy them again and see how they run on the Series X.
It's competent.
It
would be.
Weren't they? I feel like they were given away with gold one time.
They've been given away on Steam or GOG for next to nothing too.
They sell it for 99 cents all the time.
Yeah. I bought Left 4 Dead 2 on Steam over Black Friday for $1.
Yeah, I just need to go on eBay and buy them
And I've actually played the second one on a friend's 360. It's fun. It's definitely a cool game, especially if there's at least 2 of you.
Yeah.
The AI is okay.
Yeah, it's great to play. It's fun to play online. So
I've been playing more Assassin's Creed Valhalla because it seems to be what I'm doing. And then about 40 hours in, almost 40 hours in for the game, 32 or 33%.
Yeah, sounds about right.
It's so long, but I like it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was talking to my friend last night. I was playing I was thinking about back to Brotherhood and even into Black Flag where stealth, parrying and things like that, being sneaky was not in Valhalla, and from what I've read, not in the last couple games either. You can just pick up your heavy weapons and bulldoze through everything.
Yeah, you can if you want. Yeah,
I was cool.
And this being a Viking game, I don't want to do much stealth. I just want to just come in and cut off arms and legs and heads.
Get that? It's pretty cool when
burn
you can
everything to the ground.
Probably one of the best abilities so far is you get this ability tree where you can take a two-handed weapon and hold it in one hand, so you can have a giant two-handed axe and a giant broadsword.
Yeah.
Destroy things.
Yeah.
God, But it's fun. It's good. I'm still not 100% on the ship combat. I think the ship stuff's probably the weakest. It just doesn't. It just feels odd.
See, I haven't
It's
even got to the ship
pain to, like,
combat yet.
maneuver and stuff.
It's a taxi from point A to point B for me. That's all.
Yeah,
it
for
is.
the most part, until later.
Yeah.
Let's see. My friends convinced me I should buy Black Ops Cold because they offered to pay for 60% of it. So I'm like, okay. It's on sale on Great Man Gaming for
In that case,
$50.
Yeah.
I'll play
That'd be about the only way that I would play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we'll pay. We'll do 30. You can get 20. I said, okay, I'm in. So I played Zombies last night for about 4 hours. It's fun. It's zombies. Only one map. I guess if I want the rest of the stuff, I need to buy the season passes that are coming. I'm like, wait, is there a season pass for Zombies and for Cold War? I think there is. Plus, Warzone makes it more confusing. It's zombie.
Yeah, if you want that whole game, you got to pay like $120, $140 for it.
Or like the Ultimate
Even then,
Edition.
who knows if you get the full thing.
Yeah.
For Cold War, there's an Ultimate Edition which comes with some stuff to start you out, but no season pass. Okay, so you're just it's gonna end up being like Fortnite.
Yeah,
Fortnite.
I think that's what they
buy
want too. That's
every season you got to pay unless you do well enough. I think in Warzone you can pay once, and if you just do well enough, just like in Fortnite,
yeah, you can get enough in-game.
you can progress. Yeah, and it's a good cash grab. It totally sucks people in.
Oh, and I'm sure
But
it does. It's Call of Duty, so
I can tell you that the campaign, barely dabbled in that today. It's pretty bad. If you're interested in this campaign, maybe like I don't think it's good as the other Black Ops 1 and 2.
That would be the only thing I would be interested in, and you can't red box games anymore.
It's
so
not
like,
super long, maybe 6-7 hours.
well, that sounds about right.
I know, but if you want the campaign, if you're just gonna use the campaign, just wait till 30 bucks.
Oh,
just wait.
I'll wait till it's $10.
Or it comes a Game Pass.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what's gonna happen, right?
I don't know. We'll see.
It's a cash cow, right?
Yeah.
I know, big old cash cow.
Yeah, it's a big old cash cow. I don't see it coming to Game Pass unless there's a miracle or something. But
or Microsoft.
Yeah, or Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard.
Go on, Activision.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't imagine how much they'd have to pay for Activision Blizzard. I mean,
that billions. I don't even think. I mean, with how much they spent on ZeniMax, I'm not even sure if they. I mean, Microsoft's a big company, but it's like that's going to be a big acquisition like ZeniMax is something you're only going to see if this was something that they would be consistent with, something you'd see only once every like couple of years, probably.
Yeah,
like
I mean, they say they're going to buy more, so we'll see. They don't say how big, but they say they're going to buy more. So they got $150 million in cash just laying around, burning a hole in your pocket. I mean,
And the only other thing I got is I got my Mega SG in, and all I did was open up and look at it.
Oh, that came in pretty fast. Well, you got it from Stone Age, so that's just up the road.
That was from Analog.
Oh, you got the system thing in. Yeah.
The Mega SG came in for use on. It's pretty much
it's a high-end Genesis.
FPGA level Genesis with HDMI.
It's a modern Genesis.
My EverDrive, it still says processing. It's been charged, but processing.
Yeah, Stone Age probably takes a while. It's two guys.
It's still faster than getting it from Ukraine.
Oh yeah,
from Ukraine.
Yeah.
You're gonna sit and wait a couple months with at least a Stone Age. It'll be a couple weeks. I'm in no rush. I'm very excited. And then my other buddy is like, "Hey, hurry up when your thing gets here. I want your Genesis 2." I'm like, "All right, slow down. You'll get it. Hang on." I want to test some games side by side, see how they look at least.
Yeah,
I'm pretty excited. But yeah, that's it. I mentioned this before in the last show, but I'm really digging Game Pass. I'm really liking having an Xbox for that and being able to.
It's a fantastic service.
It is. It's a great service.
A couple of my friends who don't game on anything but Xbox. Madden or FIFA. Cool, we can play.
Yeah. Now with EA on there. Yep.
With Ultimate, I got another buddy who he mainly games on PC, and he's like, Deep Rock Galactic and a couple other things. But yeah, man, sure, we'll play.
Yeah,
so
Deep Rock is awesome co-op.
Yeah, I was enjoying that like last week. I'm like, this is kind of soothing.
Yeah, I told you months ago it was cool, but nobody listened to me.
It wasn't on Game Pass.
I bought that game. It was $30. I bought that game. It's totally worth it.
If you want to buy it, I saw it on sale day for $20 on Steam.
Yeah,
but it's fun.
Totally worth it. Yeah,
it's one of those games you can get a lot of life out of.
Now, if you buy it on Steam, I don't think you can play Xbox. You have to buy
I
it
don't
on
think
the
there's
Windows.
crossplay.
Yeah, you have to buy it on the Windows Store. Then it's crossplay. Because technically, where I bought it on Xbox, I got the PC version and the Xbox version. So
Oh, is it a Play Anywhere title?
yeah, it's a Play Anywhere title.
Oh, okay,
so,
cool.
So you can take it with you on your phone.
Yeah.
Oh,
so.
I do have to say, Cold War, crossplay. It's okay. Again, there seems to be all sorts of weird system-to-system working issues, and it's, I can't decide because in Warzone, at least, we had my buddy on Xbox, me on PC, another buddy on PC, and then our other buddy on PS4. And with PS4 and Xbox, PC guys were fine with like crossplay to Xbox, but with PlayStation, it was just like hard. You couldn't join sometimes, and I noticed that cool last night too. And I don't know. I'm glad there's crossplay between platforms. That's really neat.
Yeah.
That's
Well, they had it last time, so I figured if there was any bugs or anything, they would have. It would have been worked out. That's weird. Well, and who knows? You get a crap ton of people onto, and that may bog it down too. I don't know.
I even on Black Friday picked up another Xbox controller and a charging station to try to get stuff, especially like Burnout, Forza. So
yeah. Go Forza.
Be a good use of the system hanging out downstairs next to the Switch.
Yep. I'm keeping my series or my Xbox One. I think Nikki's gonna. I'm
filling up that hard drive quickly though. I might have to. We were talking about this before the show started, but I might have to get like a 2 terabyte or a 4 terabyte for that.
Picked it up tonight. 5 terabyte black Western Digital drive. Everything's moving over.
That on sale. Did you get it from Best Buy?
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah, it's like a great deal.
I did. In-store pickup. I drove to Best Buy before the store or before the show, picked it up, and drove home.
Yeah, I was telling them on Black Friday they had a 5 terabyte, not the black series, but one of the other ones, an external.
The only reason I wanted the black one was because it is what's the speed on it? 130 megabytes a second.
Yeah,
which is pretty fast. So I figured that's what I'll go for. So, and the price was right. So.
There you go. I'll have to keep an eye out though. I definitely could use external, maybe on a PC and Xbox.
Well, my 3 terabyte was getting too full. So I'll move everything over to the 5 terabyte, and then the 3 terabyte will go. I'll put it on the PlayStation 4 and move the PlayStation 4 stuff over to it if there's room, and then I'll put the 4 terabyte back on the.
And you're just transferring like with the Xbox with the Series.
Yep.
Series X.
I don't think I could hook it to the computer and transfer it. I didn't even try.
I do know with the PlayStation 5, I'm sure we can all relate. It can be pretty slow transferring from the internal drive to the external, especially if it's a couple games. I'm like. Look at my watch. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go do something.
Well, you do not have that problem with the Series X because they're all 3.2. USB ports. So
right,
and I'm sure they are on the PlayStation 5 too. So
it's pretty cool. Yeah,
they're zippy fast.
I'm gonna have to keep my eyes out for a deal.
Yeah. So
but haven't been playing that much. Not as much as last time, but I'll trucking on.
I haven't played a whole lot because. Last Wednesday, it's funny, I had all this money saved up on Amazon, so I've been waiting for Amazon to get Series X's back in stock. They never get them. They still haven't had them in stock. So GameStop last Wednesday had bundles up, and even though I'm not interested in bundles, I still go online and check them out because I'm always curious to see how fast they sell out. Down at the bottom of the bundles, they had the it said they had the all access available. So I thought, I'll try to get approved for the all access. Why not? I mean, end up saving a little bit of money in the long run. It's an interest-free loan. Why not? So, and it's by the same company that does the iPhones, the Citizen Bank. And when I tried to do that with the iPhone, I couldn't get a loan. So I was like, this probably isn't going to work. So I went on. They said they had them. Clicked on it. It said, okay, hang on. Try it again. We're releasing a little bit at a time. So I refreshed it, added it. It said, okay, log into your account. And this is what it is. And we're going to take you, put in your address, your social, your birth date, and how much you make. And I went beep bop bop bop, and like instantaneously it went, okay, you're approved. Free shipping on the system from GameStop. We're going to give you 10,000 GameStop points, whatever they call them, and we'll ship it to you. Thanks. So yesterday, finally, Friday, I got the Series X in the mail. Super easy to set up. I use my cell phone to do it. I plugged it in. It gives you a code like if you're setting up Netflix or YouTube on a thing. So you pull up the website and enter the code. You pull up your Xbox app, go to set up new system, put in the code, and while the system is downloading the update, it goes through on the phone and says, okay, do you want to use, we see you had an Xbox One X, do you want to use those preferences? Yeah, I want to have all that same. I want to keep all my pins, want to keep all the settings. I want to use this. I'd already plugged in the hard drive. So it went, okay. And it's like, okay, you're good to go. It's still downloading the update. And it's like, oh, by the way, we see on your hard drive you have this many Series X enhanced games that you already have installed on your hard drive. We'll update those to the X for you. Okay, no problem. So what it doesn't tell you is you have to re-download the whole game on the external hard drive or internal hard drive, not the external. So even though I had the Xbox One version installed on the external hard drive, I had to re-download the entire game from the server for the Series X version. Which it was interesting because I could see the difference in the sizes of the Series X versus the Xbox One, and most of them were no more than 3 gigs in different sizes. So it's like, okay. So then after it all downloaded, I actually had 2 copies of a lot of games on my system, one internal, one external. So I had to go in the external and erase everything off. 3 games that I have do not have to be installed on the system to use Series X enhancements. One was Sea of Thieves, the Master Chief Collection, and Ori and the Whispers, or whatever the second Ori was called. I forget what the exact name of it is.
I knew it until you just broke my brain there.
Yeah, I know. It's like Ori and the Will of the Whispers or something like that. Or Will of the Wisps.
Will of the Wisp, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, I can't remember. It's the dark and purple. It's the black and purple one. That's all I remember. I just remember the picture.
I can't wait for someone in the comments to just yell at us.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they will. We'll get emails. Anyway, so having to let all those things download, it's like, okay. We had some things we had to do Friday anyway, so I went upstairs. We did those, came back. By the time I came back, Valhalla was downloaded. So, I've turned on the system, and man, I'm sure the PlayStation 5's this way too. It's like instant on. It's like the minute I hit the power button, the game system's up. There's no.
I've seen some insane videos like that. I saw somebody on Twitter who he had it. I mean, granted, it was in suspend mode, but it was like he booted it up, and I think he started playing Doom. He was in Doom Eternal. Literally,
watch this. I've got the TV behind me. I mean, literally, I'll turn it on right now, and the TV will turn on, and the system will be booted up by the time I turn the TV on. See, there it is.
Wow, that's fast.
I mean, it's just like that.
That's real quick.
Jesus,
that's
boom.
Real quick.
It was just
yeah.
Wow.
I think that's quicker than the PS5. We'll find out here in just.
Yeah.
He's already
real time. We can do a real time test.
Thank you, dear.
And now my lovely assistant will hand me this controller. We'll be more than happy to do this test and see.
They have animated backgrounds now.
That's what that is. That's an animated background.
I love that they.
Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm interested to know.
All right, just hit the button. You might have heard it beep. I don't know if it picked up. Yeah. I should be on the right input for this, but it does not seem to have taken over. Oh, you know what the problem is? I do not have HDMI CEC on, so we'll have to prep this just a tad. Go ahead and fill it.
Yeah, but anyway, so the first things I noticed with the system is one, when you're in standby mode, it boots up instantly. Even if you do a hard boot, it still boots up super fast. Menus are super spiffy now. Dennis, when you would go to the Microsoft Store and open it up, and it would take 20 seconds to load up everything. It's instantaneous now. It's just bam, here it is. Bam, here it is. You click on it. Everything is fast.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, even just the redesign seemed to have been faster in general, but yeah, you do kind of have that little bit of that lag on the One X. But 'cause the new store is beautiful. I love the new store.
Lag is gone. I mean, even like moving up and down to different games. I mean, it's super fast. I mean, it just loads really quick. I totally understand. I understand people coming up from a perspective that say it doesn't feel next gen, and I get that, especially if you came from an Xbox One, because the menus are the same, the controller is roughly the same. This controller is just a tad smaller. This is the new controller.
Yeah, I was hearing that.
I love the D-pad. The D-pad is awesome. The triggers don't go quite as far as the old ones did, but the texture on them is nice. The texture is a lot more defined on the new one, but it is a smaller controller. And while I'm holding it right here, this will be the last time I probably hold it. It's probably going back in the box. Actually, if Nikki plays, she'll probably play with this one.
I was going to ask you, is that going to be a problem for you? Because I know that you prefer a bigger controller.
No, it's not a problem for me, but I have this one. I have the Elite Series 2, so I like this controller better.
And if you do, there's really no reason to not use it.
Yeah. But I mean, you can see how I rest my hands, and you see the gap between my fingers there. See the gap in the exact same in the exact same spot. See how much closer they are. But it's really weird. It's just a hair smaller, but the weight's a little more. It doesn't feel as cheap as the old ones did. But still, it uses the same battery. I can use the rechargeable battery pack I have for the Xbox One and just charge it with the USB-C cable, which is nice if I want to do that. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to use this. I mean, this controller is just my favorite. I love it. If I want to pull the stick off and put a new stick on, or I want to pull the D-pad off and put a new D-pad, it's so cool. I love the weight of it. The weight feels good. The rubber on it feels good. But, so what else? Auto HDR. What's that? You gonna try to boot it up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you wanted to, you want to see how this thing works.
Let's
so
see.
Mine's gonna boot to the user select screen, since I have more than one user on there.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see. I don't remember if it's gonna boot. It might boot to a splash screen. I think that's the big difference. Is this doesn't immediately pop on there. Okay, so we got our beep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have that little bit of a splash screen there.
But that's not bad. I mean, that's still pretty quick. That's quicker than it was on the PlayStation 4.
It's much faster.
By far.
Absolutely. And before I had the users on there, instead of just popping up here, it would be right in there.
Right in there. Yeah.
So they just opted to have a little bit of an animation in there. It's more of a design choice than
and this one would if I would totally kick it,
shut it down.
So I leave it in standby.
Before the animation, it would have the the black and white, the PS logo that the PS4 and Pro has that same thing there. If you're not booting it from.
But if you're coming from an Xbox One, I get people, it doesn't feel next gen. It just feels like Xbox. And I think that's what they wanted. They didn't, they wanted it to feel familiar. You don't have to learn menus over again. You don't have to learn where everything's at. Exactly. It's just there.
I think also like everything that's next gen, I think rather than being in your face, I think they opted more for everything to be behind the scenes. So your games are going to look and play best on Series X, even though the menus and stuff, everything looks like how it already is. But again, you don't see that much of a difference going from any sort of, even just something like Windows 7 to Windows 8, Windows 8 to Windows 10. It's, it's all kind of, you got your start menus, and they might fancy it up a little bit, but ultimately it's Windows. It's So.
And I really like both approaches. I like that it's a seamless experience. You can just kind of go right in there, and it's exactly how you want it to be. But I also understand and can appreciate getting a new console and really diving into what is the new, like, what is the vibe for this generation. And Sony's curated like this feeling with all their cards, and they show you what they want you to see, like, up front, and it's got a completely different feel to it. And I don't really know if one's better than the other, but the Xbox UI right now is certainly more fleshed out. It has all those advancements that have been made over the last 7 years of the Xbox One and the One X, whereas every time Sony releases a new system and their new UI, it's like bare bones. We still don't have folders. Just like when the PS4 came out, everyone was stoked because the PS3, they added folders. Guess what? PS4 didn't have folders at launch. That came 2 years later. And here we are, PS5 launch, no folders. For a while, I thought my system was deleting games. I didn't realize that it was like the Switch, and that in its default view, it shows only your most recently used applications. And I was just like, what's happening? And it wasn't until I went into the game library and saw there was an installed tab, and I could now see everything that I had installed. And to my knowledge, there's not a way to say I want to view them all. That's how it is until Sony decides they want to add in any.
Yeah, well, on the Xbox One X, I always go to my games and apps, or go to the games, and usually I just have a big list in alphabetical order of all the games that I have. Well, now on the Series X, I can say, well, the first games I want to see are the Series X enhanced games. Then it'll give me the Xbox One games. Then it'll give me all the backwards compatible 360 and original Xbox games. So now that's the way I have it. So immediately I've got right in front of me, I've got all the Series X enhanced games that I own. It's like, okay, cool. Now I know exactly what, and they have an X or an S on them. I mean, they're good and defined, but it's just nice to be able to at least have them divided up instead of just going through a big list of 100 games. Usually I have 100 games on there, so it's like going through 100 games and going, it's in alphabetical order, but where is this? Oh, it starts with they put the as the, so it's in the T's, not in the, the whatever, but I do like that. The quick,
I wish there were better ways to search for things. It's alphabetical or newest, and then the only filters that I have are PS4 or PS5 or all.
Yeah, you could filter the crap out of things on the Xbox. It's
that's nice, because if you have, whether it's Xbox Live or PS Plus, like I have almost 300 games just chilling in my games that I can download from over the years, and now I have to scroll through all that stuff and
see.
They haven't added it yet, but
well, Microsoft has even that divided up. I've got a tab that I go to, and it says all games, and there's a tab for Gamepass. There's a tab for Games with Gold. There's a tab for I forget what the other tab is, EA. And and I can go into each one of those and go, okay, here's all the games that I can download that I haven't downloaded yet. These are all the Games for Gold games that I own. These are all the games I own. These are all the Game Pass games. These are all the EA Game Pass games. It's like, it's filtered to. You can filter it so much. And I don't miss that with Sony having to go through an entire list of 5 billion things in random order.
To
try to,
and it's not as bad as it sounds, just because the PlayStation Store is now built into the UI. It's not a separate application. So when I go up to the little search icon, I can just search for whatever I want, and if it's a game, it knows that, it brings up a game page. So I could do it that way, and then I could just download it from there. So that is an option, and it's certainly faster than scrolling through 300 games. But it would be nice to have some options.
And that'll come eventually, I guess. I mean, I would think that'd be something that they want. But features. Quick resume. Quick resume is awesome, because last night I just kept pulling up games and trying. So, like, the first game that was downloaded was Valhalla. I tried it out, and I talked about it a little earlier. It looked really, really awesome. One thing that Series X has, it has. I don't know if they call it auto HDR, but at any rate, if it's a game that doesn't have HDR, it will give it HDR. And it's curated. So, like, Microsoft went back and said, okay, let's try this backwards compatible original Xbox One game. Will HDR work in it? Okay, that looks good. Great, we'll keep HDR on it. Oh, the HDR looks terrible on this one. Don't auto HDR it. And they went back and did every one of them. So last night, I loaded up Panzer Dragoon Orta, played it in 4K, 60 frames with HDR, and it looked almost like a next-gen game. It was unbelievable.
That's so cool.
How cool it looked. I mean, it was just, the whole time I'm just going, oh my gosh, this almost 20-year-old game looks tremendous. And then I backed out of it and hopped into Valhalla, and it just loaded right back up to where I was at, and I just kept right on going.
Are you gonna try any of the emulation stuff I've been reading about?
I don't know. You have to buy the dev pack for like $20 to do it, which is not bad. I might end up doing it on the Series X, or the not the Series X, the One X instead of the Series X. I don't know.
Good idea. I didn't think that was an option.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't matter because when you log back out of the dev thing, all your other stuff's there. Yeah. So, it's not like it's a big deal.
So it saves all your preferences and everything?
Yeah. So any Xbox console, you can turn it into a dev console. All you do is you buy the dev app for $20 or $25, and what somebody has done is they've allowed RetroArch to run on the dev kit, so it turns it into an emulation machine.
Well, funny enough, like not long ago, maybe this was about a year ago. You can actually do that if you go through Microsoft Edge. Like, let's just say you don't want to go through that dev kit stuff. If you go through Microsoft Edge, you can kind of manipulate it that way. Because I found I have a video somewhere on my phone. I'll have to find it. But I was literally playing Mario and Luigi. One of the ones on Game Boy Advance on my Xbox One, through Microsoft Edge, though, because I had you connect this certain website to your OneDrive, or you can use Dropbox, whatever. But so long as you can have the emulator and the ROM there, then you can effectively boot that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big video that came out last week. Is RetroArch will run PS2 games on the Xbox Series S and X.
Hilariously, apparently from what I heard, it runs better on the Series X than it does on any of the PlayStation consoles.
Yeah, it does. It runs better on any of them. Yeah. So, I've been very tempted with RetroArch to do that, but
look, Microsoft wasn't messing around when they said we're going to have full backwards compatibility.
Yeah, we didn't realize it was going to be like every video game ever backwards
compatibility. Everything, ever. It's your all-in-one console. Everybody's always saying, why even bother with all these competitions? Just have it all.
Yeah, we'll just have it all.
PlayStation, Xbox, well, happy one else. The Series X will do just that, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm trying to think of what else. So I tried. I moved games to the hard drive to see how fast they load. Like Panzer Dragoon Orta had absolutely zero load times, none. It loaded so fast, like it was just a seamless. Like I never saw a loading screen. I never saw now loading. I would see no, and that would be it. No, and then the game loaded. It was just that quick. I was trying to think of what was one of the other games I played. I played the Ori game. What's funny about it is they would prefer you to play that game in 4K 120. But if your TV doesn't support it at 4K 120, you could play it in 6K super sampled at into 4K at 60 frames a second. That is the most beautiful game that I have ever seen because it's actually rendered in 6K and knocked down to 4K.
That sounds
with 60 frames a second.
That sounds just like what they did with the Tourist, because apparently the Tourist does the same
Tourist
thing.
does the same thing. I haven't downloaded it yet, but it's on Gamepass.
Because I played and beat that game maybe a month ago, and that game was astonishingly beautiful and an absolutely fantastic game in its own right. So I actually want you to check it out. I want to hear what it looks like. Actually.
It's on my list. It's on my list to download. And once I get everything situated around to where I want it, that's the next thing.
Because the game was already gorgeous on One X. That's the thing, and I was like, how does it look better than this? But I remember Larry Erb most people know him as Major Nelson, obviously, and the Xbox podcast. He was like, "Dude, I've never seen anything like it. Just like it's crazy. Just like the
Ori
fidelity."
I played Ori for 45 minutes. It was, and I didn't play it on the One X because I knew it, on the Series X. I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait and play it on the Series X. And man, I mean, it just looked so good and smooth. Oh my gosh. When it said, yeah, okay, your TV doesn't support 124K, but so we'll let you play it in 60 FPS at 6K super sampled. I went, excuse me? 6K super sample?
Wait, what?
Yeah. What?
Well, apparently that's the cool thing about the Series S, though, is like anything that is 4K will super sample it down to 1440p, or maybe the other way around, maybe 1080p. Well, depending if you have a 1440p monitor, it can't.
Yeah. And it does support 1440p. I could set that resolution to 1440p if I wanted to.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what else? What did you want to know, Dennis? You said you had questions.
Yeah, I guess one of the questions I had was like, I remember you had messaged earlier saying that when you set it up, it was incredibly fast on your phone. I want to know what that process was like, setting it up through the phone app.
It was easy. It was literally like, have you ever went online and downloaded like the YouTube app and it gives you a code and you go to the YouTube page and put it in?
Yeah.
That's how this worked. It worked that way. Yeah. Like when I
So-
turned on my Xbox, there was a code, like a 6-digit code, and I go to the app and go to set up new console and put in that code and go, yep, I want to do this on it. I want that. I want you to bring that over, do that. All while on the screen, it's downloading the update.
Mhm.
So by the time the update was done, the box reset and boom, all my stuff was there. My menus, everything.
Awesome.
Yeah. 10 minutes. It wasn't even 5 minutes and I was done and ready to go right out of the box.
That's wild. That's crazy.
I had to update the controller, but of course, they always do.
They really thought that through them, because I think one of the things that's always plagued day one launches has always been just sitting there for hours as you just you can't enjoy it. Like, sure, like the console will launch, let's just say November 14th, but you won't enjoy it until maybe the 15th or the 16th because of all these updates and whatnot. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it was seamless and quick and fast. I was just shocked how fast I was up and going in it. What was I going to say? And I already had all the stuff on my hard drive, so there was already games there, And like I said, it knew in the app, it said, hey, you got this many games on your account, on your hard drive that are Series X. We'll update those for you and install them on the ones that need installed on the internal hard drive. We'll go ahead and install them on the internal hard drive. Because like I said, not all games, so I loaded up Red Dead Redemption 2 last night on my external, and it took maybe 20 seconds to get from hitting the A button to the start screen. And I hadn't played it on it. I downloaded it I bought it on Xbox, but I hadn't played it yet. So of course I had to choose new game if I wanted the HDR, blah, 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 blah. Then once I hit A button for the story, it took 1 minute to load the entire game. That was from the external hard drive, not the internal, the external. Normally that game took like 2.5, 3 minutes to load. So I figure if I put it on the internal hard drive, it would probably load in like 30 seconds.
I would think so. I also installed Red Dead 2. I didn't ever play it on the last gen, so I don't really know how it compared. But it was, it was quicker than any Grand Theft Auto game I'd ever loaded, which I assumed it was a similar thing, that it just takes forever for that initial load.
PlayStation 4
but it was not long.
Yeah. PlayStation 4 took 3 minutes to load that game.
Definitely not.
No,
definitely not 3 minutes. Yeah.
So I wasn't even expecting it to be that fast from the external hard drive. So that totally changed my entire perception of, well, I don't need to keep every game that I'm going to play on the internal hard drive unless it's optimized for Series X and it requires to be on that internal hard drive. Everything else is still going to be on the external hard drive, and I can just run it off there. And like I said, like some Series X enhanced games will run off that hard drive. Master Chief Collection, the Ori game, Sea of Thieves, they'll run off there. So I don't need to even move those over. Yeah, I'll get a little faster load time with them, but 30 seconds difference in Red Dead on and off, A minute's way better than 3 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. But I think one of the biggest differences I've seen in addition to that, that's actually impressive what you said about it being on the external though.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest differences I've seen, I think, was like Final Fantasy 15 is one of the bigger ones too, where it's like that's a minute and a half to load. Now you're up and running within like 15 seconds.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, and that's one now it's like, well, you know what, I may download this and just see.
Because I have the Royal Edition. I bought the Royal Edition. Never got around check.
Well, and and this is a hard drive that I was using last night as I bought that when I first bought my original Xbox. So this is that hard drive's at least 2 or 3 years old. So it's just 3.0. I don't even know the speed on it. I literally pulled the box out of the closet and went, "What's the speed on this?" Oh, it doesn't say what the speed is. It just says USB 3.0. So now that I've got this one that's optimized for gaming and it's 130 megabits a second, is that going to make it load faster? We're going to find out, because what am I going to do tonight? I'm going to sit here and just keep loading games to see how fast they load off. Because
I saw that too. That one I almost picked that up myself actually, because Best Buy's got a real. I don't know if they still got it now, but I know this weekend they had like a really great like hard drive sale.
Yeah, I'd been waiting. I sold a Wii console with, what was it, Eric? 3 controllers, 3 nunchucks, a board, and 5 games. Sold it for like $200.
There, see, I
told
like,
you. What?
Original Wii or Wii U?
Yeah, original Wii.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, so I've been waiting for.
It's this weird coronavirus stuff where Wii's and mostly Wii's. People are like, I want overpaying like crazy. But
all right, so I've been waiting for the hard drives to go on sale, and this was the last one they had in stock at Best Buy down in Huntington. So I said, I'll take it, and I got to go. So I'll go pick it up.
John, do you have any intentions of buying the expandable memory card?
I originally was going to, but I looked at the cost and I was like, you know what, I could spend $150 on 5 terabyte external or $220 on the memory card.
You could even get a 6 terabyte external for probably 130, 140.
Right. Well, but you don't get that speed. That's the payoff is, that memory card is exactly what's in the Series X.
Yeah. And for the more like gaming oriented hard drives, like you're still not gonna.
And once I got this, once I saw how games actually loaded off the external drive that I had, no, I think I'm all right. I mean, unless something happens and there's a mad rush and I buy 40 games that are Series
I think 1 terabyte will be solid for now. I'm just worried about. I think the Series S is when you really start to.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's gonna be, and that's the one I'm interested in. So I'll definitely have to have.
Yeah, because especially like a Series S is going to be an incredible just digital machine, but arguably the best digital machine for an incredible price point. But if you do want that extra space, though, you really have no choice but that.
But I'm telling you though, with the right hard drive, in the load time off the hard drive, I was very surprised last night how fast things loaded off the external hard drive, because they didn't load that fast on the One X off the hard drive, and they certainly didn't load that fast on the PS4, even the PS4 Pro off the hard drive. They didn't load that fast. I know they didn't. So
I think right now, with everything kind of being kind of proprietary, because Microsoft did say like they're going to work with more partners, going to make it with third-party kind of and whatnot. So I think right now for what, 200? Is it $200? 220?
$220 for a terabyte.
That's because you can get the Series S plus that expansion. Like, yeah, you'll have 1.5 terabytes at that point, but then with as much money as you're spending, just get the Series X, I guess. But then everyone kind of has their own kind of like reasons for it too, because with the S being so small, it just kind of depends on your setup. And like if you're never going to use the disk drive anyways, if you truly are a digital only, then the Series S, sure, it's perfect for you, especially if you don't have a 4K TV. Then,
well, and I'm fine with moving games back and forth. I mean, like we before the show, excuse me, when we started, I started moving stuff to the hard drive while we were talking. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it was 68 gigs, and I was moving it from one hard drive to the other. It moved 68 gigs in 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes.
And that's I feel the same way. Where it's just like I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind waiting if
Regular hard drive,
if it takes 5 minutes to move something over and I'm ready to go. Fine. Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah,
Because I
it's-
mean, even with the or the terabyte that was in here, it was only 700. I think it was 700 gigs. And I think even with the 1 terabyte expansion card, I think it's like 900 gigs. It's still not a full terabyte.
yeah. And I do think the Series S is great. I think it definitely serves a purpose.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I get people's, especially reviewers and stuff going, the Series X just doesn't feel next gen. The games feel next gen, but it doesn't. When I have that controller in my hand and I'm going through the UI, I just don't get that next gen feel. I totally get that.
I think the PS5 controller having what is essentially HD Rumble,
Yeah.
from the Switch makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that and that's cool, and I like that, and but I don't want them to both be the same. I want them to be set apart.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You don't want them. You want one to push the other. You don't want both of them to be the same, and then we just go through an entire console generation with the same that we went last console generation.
Exactly.
Nothing. You want. It's like everybody says you don't want to. As much as Nintendo does their own thing, nobody wants Nintendo to go away because them doing their own thing, people look at that and go, "Oh, well, we can do something like that."
Exactly.
It's like, they do things that nobody ever thought of before.
Well, in an interesting way too, because I think Phil Spencer's been asked this question many times. Where with the success of the Switch, like has Microsoft? Because that's the one thing, the one market Microsoft never really got into was just like, well, what about handhelds? You guys never do handhelds,
Yeah.
but now with xCloud, that's kind of their like own version of like
Right.
trying to go into handhelds that way because you can play it on your phones or any tablet, anything that
Yeah.
supports the xCloud app, and you're good to go.
Yep, that's true. So, but yeah, I absolutely love the Series X. I do. I like the way it looks. I love that monolithic thing now that sits on the corner of my. It's just I just had just enough space to set that thing in there, and 1 inch one way or the other would have fell off. But it was meant to sit there. But
it looks nice though, like when you first pulled it out, because I love watching unboxings for that thing.
the presentation is just what's funny is it has tape that holds the whole box on, but literally they're pull tabs, so you just pull the tape off. It was like opening up an iPhone. Is exactly what it was like, or a Galaxy or whatever the Samsung phones are.
Well, they're really knocking it out of the park with presentation, because even just the design of the actual packaging itself is really, really great. So even before you even open it, you just look at the box and go, "Oh my god! This thing I'm excited for this
But
thing."
you don't open the side or open the top. I mean, it flips up. It just flips up, and then there is a little package. A black wrapped system. It's like,
a little present.
It's like this is cool.
But it's funny because like when you and I don't know if how many unboxings you've watched, but like when you see a Series X unboxing, whether it's just any accessory, including the Elite Series actually controller, but the Series X and even the Series S itself, like it almost feels like an event in itself when you're unboxing this thing.
Yeah.
But it just makes me laugh because I've seen a few like the PlayStation ones, and like it's just like the controllers made me laugh, especially because some of the people that have unboxed the controllers, they just open it up and it's just a controller in there.
It's awful.
Controller and a piece of paper.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I got my extra controller before I got my system, and I thought somebody had gotten in there and like messed with it and decided they didn't want to steal it because it looked like it was just thrown in this box. It wasn't secured at all. It was a little foam wrapper, and it was just like bleh.
It didn't even come with a charging cable. It didn't even come with a charging
cable. And
crazy.
It still blows my mind because if you had a PSVR, they know how to package things nicely. That was phenomenal. Very similar packaging actually to the Series X with the diagonally opening box and all that.
Yeah.
Super cool stuff. Microsoft knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And I really hope one day they have in the exact same style, because I love that cubic or rectangular prism design. I hope they have it in a white so that I can have the PS5 on one side of the TV and that on the other side of the TV, and it all matches nice and pretty like. We'll see.
I'm sure they will. I don't know. I don't know if they'll end up doing a console refresh halfway through like they usually do, make a smaller version of it. They might. I don't know though.
How do you make the Series S smaller than it is? I feel like that's your refresh right
Yeah.
there, right out the gate.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean-
Well, I think the refresh would be making the X the same size as
Yeah.
the S.
I mean, and that would be the only way. I mean, I could see them doing a refresh because components got cheaper and we can make them smaller. But I don't know how you can make it smaller. You've already taken
Yeah.
that motherboard and cut it in half and put them
I
side
think
by side. I mean, I don't.
Also, in terms of refreshes, also, I think if they can eventually, in like let's just say 2 years time, maybe even 3 years time, if they can get that Series S down to like even $200, that would be
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah,
Like if
it
they could
would.
drop $100 off of it
Yeah.
too, that would be like
The
would
Series
entice-
X
You know,
seems to be the one they're banking on more than the Series.
Yeah, I have very large doubts that the S is a long-term thing for them. I think it's going to kind of go the way that the Xbox Arcade did. It was there at launch, and it was an option for people who wanted a small.
Oh, you cut off there. I don't know.
We lost you, Robert.
We lost your audio. He can't hear us.
Can't hear us.
We didn't hear anything you said, Robert. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Oh, he can't hear us. Nothing?
We can't.
He doesn't realize we can't hear you. I can't hear what you say. Somebody type it in the chat. He can't.
I did.
Time.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there we go. Now we can hear you. Your fingers slip off the button when you're talking. Who knows?
Well, it's weird too because it was like still green. Like
Yeah, it was still green like you were talking. That was weird. But I don't know if that, and that's what I think. If Microsoft refreshes a console, I think they'll refresh the S and give it 4K. Before they would do it, before they refresh the Series X. I don't know. Who knows in 2 years
3
where
years,
technology will be.
2.5, 3 years seems to be that sweet spot too. Especially now with now we're coming into 2021 and you're starting to. The rumors have been around for a while, but now they're like super heavy about a 4K switch happening to kind of still be in line with PS5 and Series X, so they don't have to here's the next gen console. It's just like the Switch being as successful as it is. Just beef up the components, really. That's all you got to do.
So. Yeah, and they probably will. I mean, they're not that they have to compete with, they're competing with really nobody. They're competing with themselves.
Yeah, Nintendo's back to having a monopoly, especially Sony not even bothering with handhelds anymore. So it's,
Yeah, but I am very pleased with the Series X. I can't wait to get a PS5, but it's just so big. I don't want to wait.
Yeah, waiting for the PS5S.
Yeah, I want a slimmer version of the PS5.
I want the short, not the slim.
But yeah, and that was the other thing. Since I got it on All Access, I got 2 years of Gamepass with it. So when I turned the system on and went through the setup, the first thing it popped up and said, "You are on All Access. You've got a 2-year code. Do you want to claim that code now?" I actually didn't have to claim that code. I could have wrote that code down and given it to you. Or whatever. I didn't have to keep the code, the 2-year Game Pass code.
Right.
I could have sold it, but why would I want to do that? So,
this is me talking about it. I would have taken
it. Yeah, but as far as getting it on the All Access, it was super easy. It's after tax. It's $37 a month for 2 years, no interest on the loan. And the one reason why I did it is because this month, if I want to pay $100 on it, I can pay $100 on it. If I just want to pay the $37 on it, I'll just pay the $37 on it. When tax time rolls around and I get a refund back and I'm like, hey, I've got enough to pay it off, I'll pay it off. If I don't want to, don't have to. Right. And I think that's look, if I could get that loan, anybody could get that loan. I mean, it was super easy. It was, in fact, it was scaringly quick and easy. The amount of time that it took for me to get that all worked out. It was very fast, and I was shocked. But yeah, so I'm all, I don't know. It was really great. It was really easy to do, and I was shocked.
It sounds like the way to go almost. I just wish things would be a lot more seamless with. I mean, it seems like both sides are having trouble just with keeping up with demand.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and We got. I put some news stories in, but we've already been talking like 2.5 hours. So I think we'll save the Phil Spencer interview for the next show. But scalpers in UK, they got 3,500 PlayStation 5s and 1,000 Series X's from this one outlet. And what's funny is that outlet canceled all the pre-orders. But it wasn't just scalper pre-orders that canceled. Anybody that ordered a console, they just canceled them all. They canceled them all. That's the hard thing, is getting past these bots. And I don't know what companies are going to do. I don't know if Walmart and Target are going to put enough money into changing things. Look, I buy Black Series action figures. Target always has exclusive Star Wars Black Series action figures and G.I. Joes. And I swear to goodness, they'll go up for 30 seconds and they're gone. I mean, boom. And it's all bots buying them. It's not people. It's scalpers buying them because they just turn right around and put them up on eBay.
Turn around and flip them.
Yeah. And
won't the CAPTCHA, if you add a CAPTCHA on there, won't that deter the bots?
I don't think so. There's ways to get around that. The only way that I think that's how, GameStop and Best Buy have quote unquote queues. And like I said, I think that's how I got one so easily. It was noon on a Wednesday. But still, literally when I clicked on it, it said available. I clicked on it and then it said, we're only releasing a little of these at a time. Just hit your refresh button. Don't go out and back in, just hit your refresh button. And I hit my refresh button and boom, there it was. And we're off to the races. I still like the way Sony does it. You can buy them directly from Sony and literally it puts you in a queue to go to the webpage and you see a bar on it that says, when this bar gets full, we'll ding you. And if it sells out in the middle of it, you'll be halfway through the bar and it'll say, oh, they're all gone. Sorry. You were way too far in line. And hackers aren't getting those. It's people getting those. So
I wonder if there's a way to kind of do like what some multiplayer games have been doing, where they've been getting better at like implementing that sort of like anti-cheat feature to make things a lot more fair. Is there like a retail version of that?
I don't know. I don't have a clue. But they're going to have to do something because these scalper groups are groups of thousands of people who pay into to be in a group and get that bot. And I mean, it's
but also
just
like how
crazy.
Successful are there investments where it's just like there's enough people that are willing to do this time and time and time again because there's people out there that are willing to pay 3 times SRP. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, there's
want it that bad. It's crazy. I've seen a couple guys locally been able to move them bucks.
Right.
I've seen people locally try to do that on the trade sites on Facebook, and they just immediately get trolled. It's people just come on there and go, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't buy it. They'll be in stock in a month or two. Just let it go. Don't do it." But I don't know if they sell them or just get them took down or what. I don't know.
But like, where's that? I don't think either system really has that sort of killer app right now either.
Right.
Where, that like really you have no choice but to get this thing right now.
Yeah,
so.
I don't either, but I don't know. It's crazy because both of them. I mean, both Sony and Microsoft have both come out and say this is our biggest launch ever. We've sold more consoles than we've ever sold. And I know Microsoft said they had 2 million ready to go, and they're gone. I don't know how many Sony had. At least that much, if not more.
I heard they were struggling for parts just a little bit more than Microsoft was actually too. I mean, I could be wrong, but I could have sworn that's what I heard.
Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, but and Microsoft waited so long. This one was made in October. I looked at the manufacturing date to see when it was made. It was made in October, so that's cutting it close. Since it released in November, it's like, oh, this was just made like a month ago. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if Sony was having issues with part manufacturers. I know that it's been revealed now there's 2 different fans that you can find in different PlayStation 5 systems.
Yeah.
And one fan is quieter than the other fan. And so some people are like, why is my fan not silent when this person's fan is silent? And it just comes down to who manufactured that fan. Yeah. One of them has fewer blades and they're more spaced out, and that's louder fan.
Louder, yeah.
And
that's
yeah,
one.
I mean, it's not like a jet engine, but it's
right.
At least audible, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's one thing.
I don't know which one I have. I haven't taken it apart, but
yeah. Well, if you can't hear it, I would say you probably got the one.
Yeah, I'm assuming I have the quieter version, just because I don't think I've ever heard my fan, even like walking up next to my system. But
I haven't heard this one. I have heard I've got that external hard drive underneath of it. I hear the external hard drive running over the Series X.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The only time I've heard my system is when I booted up The Last of Us, because I have it on disc. It's the only disc I put in the system, and that's the only sound it's ever made besides that beeping chime that when you turn it on.
If it's totally quiet in this room, and last night when I started to leave to go upstairs, I heard the fan running, but that's only because there was no other noise in this room. The air conditioner wasn't running, the computer was shut off, and it was very quiet even then. And the only reason it was running is because it had been downloading for like 10 hours. So it was. But right. I don't have a ping pong ball to put on there to see if it floats and all this and that.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm gonna buy one.
Well, you got to find a game to put under load first.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played Gears yet. I'm gonna try Gears tonight. I'm anxious to try Gears. But I played Valhalla and played it for about an hour. Went over and put my hand on top of the system, and it was warm. The air coming out of it was warm, but the whole rest of the console was ice cold. So yeah, I want the chimney. I want that heat to come out. I don't want it to stay.
I think that engineering team really knocked it out of the park, just in terms of just the heat dissipation and everything like that. Yeah. So,
another thing I can touch on real quick is apparently Jim Ryan was asked if Sony had a Game Pass, an answer for Game Pass coming. All he said was news is coming soon. Do you guys actually think that they're going to put first-party games on PlayStation Now day one?
No, I don't, and I'm pretty sure that Sony even a month ago said that in their opinion the Game Pass is not a sustainable model, and they have no intention of doing that. So and unless they've completely switched their thought process on that, I can't imagine.
They could have, because Microsoft has 15 million subscribers to Game Pass. 15 million. And it's only been out 2 years. PlayStation Now has been out for 5 years, and they have 2 million subscribers. I mean, but the thing about it is with me, with Game Pass, is Sony, the only way Game Pass is going to work for Sony is if, one, it's first-party games day one, and two, they're going to do it on PC, and they're going to release all their first-party games on PC day one as well. That's the only way it's going to work, because that's what makes Game Pass special. Is Game Pass, Sony only taps into 25% of the gaming market as a whole with PlayStation Now, because it's restricted to a PlayStation console. Microsoft is on PC, which is 25%, Xbox, which you could say is 25%, and mobile, which is like, I don't know, 25%. We'll just say 25%. They have a 75% that they're touching. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's playing it on mobile, but there's enough playing it on PC and Xbox to justify 15 million subscriptions. That is crazy. And that sounds sustainable.
It's a very large number.
$15 a month.
The different, and what it comes down to, and we don't know the answer to this, is what's the profit margin look like? Well, I know that it was a few years ago when it was PS4, Xbox One timeframe. It was reported that PlayStation Now was more profitable than Game Pass was. Now I don't know if that's still the case, because it's, like I said, it's been a couple of years since that article, but I imagine Microsoft is paying more for those titles to be on that service than Sony is.
Did you listen to the interview that I recommended everybody listen to?
I did.
Okay, so you know how
I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, so you know how he talked about the way they would get some games is a developer would come to him and say, we want this game, we're making a game, we want it on Game Pass, we want X amount of dollars. And Microsoft would just pay them X amount of dollars. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, they would come to Microsoft and go, we need this much money, when Microsoft say, we will pay for development of this game or partial development if you put it on Game Pass for such and such time. The thing about it is, and I've said this from the beginning, Microsoft has more disposable income than Sony does, and they always will, because they've got, Microsoft is just a bigger company, and I don't know how Sony is going to compete with Game Pass. I just don't, because like you say, I don't see them putting their first party games on there day one. I just don't. And if they do, I'll be shocked, and I'll eat this straw.
It's been on the show.
Don't say that, John. don't say that.
Well, that's why I said straw. I'm not going to go, I'll eat my shoe.
I
I wear a size 15 wide. I'm not going to eat my shoe.
I don't really want to see you eat a straw either, though.
I mean, look how selective they've been just for the stuff that they've ported to PC anyways. And then something like Death Stranding, for example, wasn't even published by them. It was published by 505 Games, so it was a completely different publisher at that point too. So it's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, and we'll save this Phil Spencer.
Straw.
There's a lot that I want to touch on with that, but we'll save that for the next show, because we're getting into 3 hours now, and is it really almost 1 o'clock here? Holy crap! I don't even know what time it is. It's not even the sun.
It's almost time for dinner.
I was going to say the sun hasn't even went down where you're at. So
no, sun was going down at 6 p.m. my time. So
okay. All right.
It's come and gone.
All right, but yeah, I am extremely happy with the Series X, and it makes me excited to get a PlayStation 5 at some point and try out this controller and see the hype over there. When that game that I really want to play on PlayStation 5 comes out, then I'll be there. Hopefully. But this was the first time since the 360 that Microsoft has made me kind of want to get a console at launch. I didn't get a One until 3 or 4 years into it, because it was more expensive. I didn't want to connect. The interface was stupid. They were concentrating more on TV, and it was like I wasn't interested. But now it's like, okay, well, all my games here from all the way back on the 360 are right here.
Yeah,
which is nice. Most of them are here. So, except Left 4 Dead. I need to buy Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. So.
Yeah, then we could play.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get those games for years. I thought I had them, but I guess I don't. So, oh well, it is what it is. I trade games a lot. I used to, so I don't anymore.
You had them, and you just
I don't trade games anymore. I keep games. So, all right. So, anything else before we go for the evening, Dennis? I guess. Well, you're still on vacation, so I don't. Are you going to have any streams or anything this week that anybody should?
Not as far as I know. Nothing really formally planned at the moment. So yeah, still going to be another quiet.
Okay.
A little bit more quiet time.
All right. Well, I'm hoping to take off. I'm hoping to take off about 19 days at the end of this.
wow.
Well, I got 7 days worth of vacation coming up that I've got to take, and with New Year's being on a Friday and Christmas being on a Friday, it's like, oh, I can bump some things, and we don't work the week between Christmas and New Year's anyway, so it's like, well, I could take 3 days off starting the 16th, and then take the entire week off of Christmas, and then guess what? I get the next week off too. So it's
gaming time in.
Yeah, I need to get some gaming time in. I need to yank out this TV and completely redo all my wiring, because it looks like a horrendous mess back there. Yeah, so there's stuff that needs to be done. I need to clean out gutters too, and I don't want to get up on the thing and clean out gutters in the house. I don't like cleaning gutters out. I don't like ladders. I fear I'm going to fall.
Yeah, not the biggest fan.
Well, if you feel an earthquake, it's probably me falling off a ladder while I'm cleaning out gutters. So, just FYI. So. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for listening. Yeah, it took a turn. Took a turn quick. It's what happens when it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Things take a turn. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out with us and listening to the show. I don't know. We'll have to work out a date. 2 weeks from now is the 19th or 20th. So we'll see. We're getting close to Christmas. So but we're getting close to episode 200 too, so that'll probably be
Yeah.
right
We'll have
after
to
the
talk-
first of the year. So that's what I'm figuring after the holidays. So, but yep. So just follow us on Twitter at @GO_podcast, and that way you will know when we go live. Or, like I always say, if you listen to us on the podcatchers, you'll get it when you get it. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, thanks for hanging out and listening to us chat away, and we will catch you guys next time.
Take care.
See you later.